Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell. I have a live stream going on in the larger channel and on the backup channel. On the backup channel, you can see the dashboard of the market. I'll give you a little bit of an update on the market, and then we're going to go over some of the videos today. So the market, again, of course, I'm doing the live stream, and for the ones that are going to be seeing this as a recording, this is on November 27th. So the market has already opened up, and the S&P 500 is trading at 6,009, almost 6,010, and the Euro USD is trading at 1.05. So the dollar has weakened a little bit relative to yesterday. Oil is trading at 68.83. And the VIX is relatively low at 14.19. All right. Bitcoin ETF is trading at 25.42 for the long one. Now, the short ETF for Bitcoin is at 23.94. So that's what's going on right now. So if you want to watch the dashboard version, you can go to the other YouTube live stream, and if you just want to watch in the larger screen, then stay at this channel. Please help support my work by going to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and that way I'm going to be able to build out this live stream capability. I'm adding features to my website where you see audio podcasts that you can replay. You can also replay audio podcasts on Podomatic and Apple Podcast. So you can play it on my website if you want, or on those other platforms, and you'll be able to see the live stream. I still have to add the link for this live stream, and I will once we start the videos here. And that way, I'm building out some more capability. I'm also working on providing an app to my followers where they'll have access to my content, live stream, audio, and the store. So then that way you can purchase through an app, on your phone, either iPhone or Android. So I'm working on that, but please help support my work. The-studio-reykjavik.com. Go to the website, get the products, take a look at some of the medical classes, medical lectures that I've done, and help support the work. In addition, I'm going to set up the X Spaces soon, so you can do a call-in if you want to do a call-in. That would be great. This is supposed to be interactive. And today, because it's right before Thanksgiving, it's probably going to be a slow news day. But the whole idea is that we're set up for breaking events and being able to interact together. The audience interacting with me and me interacting with the audience in real time with breaking news. Now today's probably going to be a slow news day, but please help support the work. Go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get some of the great products that I offer. Like, I have Max 35. You can get Max 35 or Max 14. This is a structural nano silver solution. And just take a teaspoon a day. That's what I do. Just swish it in your mouth, gargle, swallow. Do that every day. If you're not feeling well during the cold season, take a tablespoon or two. Same thing, gargle, swish it in your mouth, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and then swallow. It's very easy to do. Maintenance, do a teaspoon a day. I use it every day. Get the structural nano silver soaps. I have 4 different varieties on my store right now. I have it in oatmeal spice, charcoal tea tree, lemongrass, and peppermint. These are very high quality soaps, structural nano silver soaps. So it helps to support the work, and it helps to support your health. So please go to the store and get those soaps. And again, I partnered up with Rainbow Herbals, and we've created these great deodorant bars that are made from essential oils from the Himalayas. All right, very high quality ingredients. It's a dual purpose product. All right, this will help to detoxify your body, but also work as a deodorant. It's for males and females. You can get it in peppermint, lavender, and tea tree, and you can also get it in citrus. Very high quality deodorants. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. So that is the product plug for this segment. Let's go to Fox, and this is talking about the Trump effect, and Israel, Hezbollah agreed to ceasefire. That was the big news yesterday, was the ceasefire deal. Now, some experts say that this is probably going to be short-lived. We are seeing oil trading below $70 a barrel. That seems to be that the market is expecting that this is going to be a positive thing, long term, but we'll see. So let's play Fox Business.
And Hezbollah agreeing to a ceasefire deal, which went into effect at 4 a.m. local time. The deal brokered by the U.S. and France. This deal includes a 60-day halt in fighting. It requires Hezbollah to end its armed presence in southern Lebanon, where the Lebanese army will take control as the IDF returns to the Israeli side of the border. Residents of Lebanon and Israel also returning to their homes this morning as the deal appears to be holding. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said this: if Hezbollah breaks the agreement and tries to rearm, we will attack. Joining me now is retired U.S. Army Brigadier General and author of the Phalanx Code, General Anthony Tata. General, good to see you. Thanks very much for being here.
Good to see you, Maria.
Your reaction to this ceasefire deal?
Yes, ma'am. This is the Trump effect. So Hezbollah knows that they've got a month and a half or so to get their affairs in order because President Trump will open the spigot to Israel of all the arms shipments that the Biden administration has been choking off for political purposes. And they also know that maximum pressure is going to come back on Iran and who's their sugar daddy there, and the arms flow and support from Iran is going to trickle down very quickly under Trump administration, coming in with a great national security team like Mike Waltz as the National Security Advisor. So very hawkish presence coming soon to the Middle East, one that puts Iran on its heels, and Hezbollah necessarily has to take this deal. This is their last best chance to negotiate some kind of deal before Israel is just able to completely demolish them, much as they've done in the south with Hamas. And this allows Israel to now turn its attention back to Hamas and finish cleaning up that mess and destroying that terrorist group also.
So the Israelis have said that now it is time to keep the focus on Iran. Couple questions here. Are you expecting Iran to go along with this? Do you expect the Trump administration to come in and have maximum pressure campaign resuming on Iran? And where does Iran stand in all of this, I guess, is the main question.
Yeah, Maria, I do expect maximum pressure to be returned to Iran. I think President Trump in my lifetime is the most adept at using all the levers of national power, diplomacy, information messaging, military, economic, cyber, and so forth, to be able to achieve national security ends, ways, and means. And President Trump is a master at this, and what he's going to do is come in and diplomatically and economically and militarily put pressure back on Iran, put those sanctions back in place, enforce those sanctions, and choke off the gravy train from Iran to Hamas and Hezbollah into the Shia militia groups. And Iran will message and they'll bluster and they'll have, they'll make their statements about death to America and all of that. But they've got to be worried now because Israel struck them twice and they didn't even know about it till they woke up. And so they know that they're at a very strategic and tactical disadvantage in this fight. And if they want to pick a fight, they'll get one and they'll lose.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. Do you think that they're reading the room, understanding that President Trump is on his way back and is not going to tolerate some of this? I mean, President Biden is also making this renewed push for a ceasefire in Gaza between Israel and Hamas, where the fighting has been going on for more than 14 months, General. Is that even possible? How do you square the Biden team versus the Trump team and what the Israelis and the proxies of Iran are seeing here?
Yeah, it's a very great question. The Biden team has been very much appeasing toward Iran and allowing Iran and its proxies to do whatever they want to do, and have been maximum pressure on Israel to not get outside of its lane, right? So
yeah, right.
This just goes to show you that sometimes the best defense is a good offense. Israel's conducted this spoiling attack into Lebanon to get Hezbollah off its back. They conducted the major offensive into Gaza to destroy, and that's what Netanyahu said. He was going to destroy Hamas so they could never do this again. He's not finished that, so I don't think he's going to stop until he has. And so this peace talk in the South is a very different animal than freeing up his forces in the North. Really, that's a operational decision to hold what he's got in the North, so now he can refocus in the South and finish the job that he needs to do with Hamas.
I see. Understood. General, it's great to get your insights. We so appreciate it.
Thank you, Maria.
On Miro, teams work faster on the new Innovation Workspace. Innovation belongs on Miro.
All right, so that's that. Now, I want to play this retired major general on why he thinks Putin is trying to instill fear inside Russia.
Fortify new emergency bunkers as their war with Ukraine enters a dangerous escalatory phase. Just listen to the governor of Russia's Leningrad region.
Armed people, we must bring all underground rooms, all basements that meet the shelter requirements to at least this condition, so that it is dry, there are benches and a supply of water, the ability to go to the toilet in order to temporarily wait out some emergency situation. There's no time for talk. The deadlines are extremely tight. We already need to make radical decisions.
Radical decisions. Just to be clear here, I said Leningrad. It is a region north of Moscow, 500 miles at the closest from Ukraine. Now, though, a target. And that's because Ukraine is now using America's powerful longer-range missiles. Missiles that Russia claims, again, were used to hit twice Russian military targets in an airfield today. We're also learning that Ukraine's air assault has reportedly injured a North Korean general and killed a number of the more than 10,000 North Korean troops that Putin has brought to help fight his war, and now, of course, in this case, in the Kursk region of Russia. And tonight, Russia is seeking revenge for the onslaught, overnight unleashing a record number of killer drones as the current deputy chairman of Putin's Security Council and the former Russian president, Dmitry Medvedev, fires off a new warning tonight at the United States. Medvedev claiming that the transfer of nuclear weapons to Ukraine would be considered an attack on Russia by the U.S. He writes that, quote, the consequences are obvious. Now, just to state the obvious, of course, there is no talk of the U.S. sending Ukraine nuclear weapons, but that is not stopping this rise in rhetoric and the fear-mongering on Russian state TV.
Я не знаю, когда это кончится.
I don't know when it will end, but I know that it will end with some kind of missile ultimatum.
Missile ultimatum. It comes as a NATO military official is warning companies in both the U.S. and Europe to prepare for a, quote, wartime scenario. And then this. Germany is hinting that Russia is behind a deadly, fiery DHL cargo plane crash in Lithuania overnight. Let me just play for you the chilling new air traffic control audio just in to out front from moments after the plane went down.
Cancel your... Cancel your startup, go back to your stand number. We just got a crash of aircraft on the final, so we will need some time.
All right, so that plane crashed, and the Wall Street Journal is reporting that incendiary devices, explosives, which ignited in Germany and the United Kingdom over the summer, were part of a secret Russian plot designed to start fires on board cargo and passenger flights heading to the United States and Canada. Fires on board planes, planes over oceans. This would mean a terrifying fiery death for hundreds on a passenger jet. It is impossible to even contemplate such a thing. If such a thing were to happen, the consequences would be devastating. And these sobering details come as U.S. intelligence officials are now warning American defense companies to increase security precautions following several additional acts of sabotage in Europe that officials have blamed on Russia. Let's go now to military and intelligence expert Seth Jones and retired Army Major General Spider Marks. Appreciate both of you very much. So, Seth, trying to understand what the situation is here that the world is in. You've got a NATO military official warning companies to prepare for wartime scenarios. Germany's Deputy Defense Minister, Foreign Minister, warning that Russia's out producing 4-1 on ammunition. Nuclear bunkers in Russia. Germany saying they're getting bunkers ready. I mean, this is the scenario that we're in right now. And then you add to that this reporting that it's possible that Russia was behind taking down this plane, this DHL plane that we played that air traffic control audio from. Do you think it's possible that that's the case?
Well, Aaron, it's not entirely clear whether the Russians were behind the specific incident, but I think what is clear, and a range of U.S. officials that I've spoken to have confirmed, is that the Russians are involved in a much more aggressive campaign of sabotage and subversion across Europe, particularly Western Europe. They've been involved in assassinations, strikes against weapons depots, fuel depots, targeting of oil pipelines and underwater telecommunications networks. So this is, in a sense, this is an escalation of Russian activity, mostly GRU, the main intelligence directorate of the Russian military, and the SVR, Russia's foreign intelligence agency, in Europe, really as a sign that that they can escalate in the areas in the kind of the asymmetric domain.
Right, and General Marks, to that front, the Wall Street Journal talking about incendiary devices that did ignite in Germany and the UK over the weekend were part of a secret Russian plot designed to target not just cargo planes, but passenger flights heading to the United States and Canada. I mean, such a thought is really stunning to contemplate. If that were to happen, what that would mean. How concerned are you, General, about wider Russian acts of sabotage?
But there's no reason that we should assume that they're not going to try to take advantage of some real trade craft that they have. They're not bound by any legality.
See, even the terms that he's using, tradecraft, which is a word that came right out, that's a phrase that came right out of the CIA. But like I said yesterday, I'm worried about this spin that is going on in the mainstream media, where it gives the national security state a reason to ask for more power, as Trump is trying to reduce their power through restructuring, going after people that were, using their power to circumvent the administration, going after citizens. So DOGE is trying to restructure the government, make it more efficient. And you have these nominees that are coming in to try to uproot some of this deep state, right? But you have the ones that are in power that don't want to relinquish power. So as Trump gets closer to being inaugurated, as Trump gets through his first quarter of the first quarter of the year of 2025, I am really concerned that something happens by the national security state that orchestrates something like 9/11. I don't know if that 9/11 event would be on the soil of the United States. It may be an event that takes place in Europe, maybe a tactical nuke or planes that get, blown up out of the sky or whatever. I don't know. But it's like a 9/11 event that forces the national security state to go to Congress and push for more power, just like the Patriot Act and the Bio-Patriot Act. There will be the NATO Patriot Act or whatever. I don't know what the term would be, but for sure, it seems to me that if you watch these different data points and the metadata, it's increasing the chances of the national security state having their fit, because they're going to be losing power under Trump, and they have to orchestrate an event to maintain power and gain power. And I am really concerned that Trump is walking into a trap, and that we're going to have another kind of 9/11 event.
And so they will engage at multiple levels, as Seth indicated. Lots of asymmetric activities ongoing, but very precise and devastating kinetic activities as well. We should not be surprised. Again, we don't know what the facts are surrounding the crash of the DHL. We do know that there were those explosions that took place in the UK and Germany this past summer. So I think it's important for us to realize that Russia very much, and let's be frank, there's a lot to unpack here from the reporting that you've just laid in front of us.
Yeah.
I mean, Russia now has the narrative that the entire nation is under threat and under assault. They've increased the threat of nukes. That's not new. You've got the concern about war crimes, and we just saw that horrendous video.
Horrendous
So
video.
we shouldn't be surprised by any of this. So of course there's the concern about escalation, but I don't know that the escalation necessarily will increase a decision to be made that there would be direct involvement by NATO and to include U.S. force in Ukraine.
So let me ask you, Seth, you've got the Russians, obviously with their nuclear bunkers that they've been building in mass, right? And maybe some of that is real, maybe some of that is for propaganda purposes. But the governor of the Leningrad region, bring all underground rooms, underground basements, everything that could be used in some sort of an incoming missile situation, make sure you have bathroom access to get ready. You have the same thing being said in Germany, right? Being said in Germany about trying to make sure that they have bomb shelters ready for use. Seth, how far is this?
I'll tell you, I'm Gen X, right? And I remember this kind of the scare, the Cold War nuclear scare that was going on in the 80s between Gorbachev and Reagan. And the movie that came out called The Day After, I think it was called. And it was like, what would happen after a nuclear exchange? And, in the movie theater at around the same time was Red Dawn, right, the original. There was a fear within kind of like, I remember as a kid having kind of a fear within the 80s, the late 70s and 80s. I'll tell you, this feels the same kind of thing. But that feeling that I had as a kid was pre-9/11. When you have this whole national security state, Patriot Act, 9/11 orchestration kind of stuff, coupling with this Cold War tactic, I think we are tiptoeing into something very dangerous, and it could get out of control. This is not a good
Aaron,
feeling at all.
I think the
Parents, are you doing enough to get your child into a top university? Do you worry whether or not you're doing enough to help your teenager get into...
Well, Aaron, I think the Russians, and particularly Vladimir Putin, are certainly trying to instill a sense of fear in Ukraine and then also in other areas of Western Europe. They have tried to manipulate the fears of U.S. and European officials since the beginning of this war. I think a lot of it has proven fruitless and groundless in a range of cases. They have threatened to escalate to use tactical nuclear weapons. That has not happened. So I think some of this is really, it's a manipulation of a psychological effort. I think it is important to note that the Russians are in a tough spot too. They've lost 600 to 700,000 wounded and killed in this war. So I mean, it's not like there are low costs on the Russian side here. They suffered tremendously.
General, do you think that the talk we hear from Medvedev at this point, right, and he has been one with aggressive nuclear saber rattling all the way along, former president, but obviously now deputy chairman of the Putin's Security Council. How impactful is that talk in terms of scaring Russia's foes?
Well, it's not only an internal message, an external message, it's internal as well. As Seth laid out, not only are they trying to instill some legitimate concern with NATO partners and elsewhere, but also internally. They want to gin up the notion that this nation is under assault. We all need to galvanize and coalesce and come together. That's the real recipient, I think, of these messages right now, because there has been, look, the threat of nukes is like music in the background. It's been there since the outset. Every step of escalation has included a threat of nukes. We have to take that seriously. We have to be very mindful of that.
This is what I was saying yesterday. We've had the Damocles of nuclear exchange since I was born. Why do we still have this problem? We're worried about climate change, but we're not worried about nuclear waste or nuclear annihilation. It's amazing. But now we need to, pay attention, according to, Major General, who never won a war.
Our nuclear capacity and our readiness is not at risk at all. But I really think that the recipient of all these messages are Russians.
All right. Well, thank you both very much. And to your point, I'm glad Seth said it.
All right.
600 to 700,000.
I want to get John
Hey,
Bolton's.
kids, what do you call the NordVPN Black Friday?
I want to get John Bolton's take on this whole ceasefire thing. I want to see how he
The
demonizes
Black
Trump.
Friday deal.
And we have some major news regarding the ceasefire agreement between Israel and...
Sorry about that. Before we do that, let me just do a product plug really quick here. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the turmeric. This brings down inflammation. It's also an antioxidant. It's part of my main pillars for slowing down the aging process. By taking turmeric, you're bringing down pro-inflammatory cytokines, you're reducing chronic inflammation, and you're soaking up those free radicals because it's an antioxidant. And it couples really well with ashwagandha root. Ashwagandha root helps to control your cortisol levels and your blood glucose levels. That's really important, because if you have high cortisol levels and if you have high glucose levels, you have more inflammation. And you want to bring down that inflammation, improve your immune system, and when you do that, you're also improving your cardiovascular system. So this is a dual purpose. You stack these together, you're improving your immune system and you're improving your cardiovascular system. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and take the turmeric and the ashwagandha.
Hezbollah, a terrorist group based in Lebanon that's backed by Iran. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is voicing support for a U.S.-backed ceasefire agreement and now urging his cabinet to approve it. And we have the perfect guest to talk about this, former ambassador to the United Nations and a former top advisor to President Trump, John Bolton, joins us now from Washington, D.C. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for joining us. As you just heard, Israel and Hezbollah have been in this open conflict now in Lebanon since early October. What is your reaction to this possible ceasefire?
Well, I don't think it's going to amount to very much, frankly. I'm not quite sure why Israel agreed to it, except that the duration of the ceasefire is 60 days, meaning that it takes the government of Israel out of the Biden administration into the Trump administration, where they expect to have a more favorable audience. And the provisions of the ceasefire agreement do allow Israel to take military action during this 60-day period if Hezbollah tries to infiltrate back into southern Lebanon, which I think is very, very highly likely. So there's some optics here. There's some American politics involved, because Netanyahu and the Israelis fear that the Biden administration may do something negative on their way out the door. I think it's a temporary accommodation and one that's really very shaky even from the beginning.
Should Americans be feeling better now about the risk of a wider regional war with this announcement? It sort of sounds like you're not hot on it.
Well, I think Israel's been in a wider regional war since October the 7th of last year, with these attacks not just by Hezbollah, but by Hamas out of the Gaza Strip, the Houthis in Yemen, Shia militia groups in Iraq and Syria. This really was what the Iranians themselves call their ring of fire strategy against Israel, and it's been a terrible fight over the past year plus now. The real problem is Iran, and of course this ceasefire, which deals only with Lebanon, doesn't take care of the real threat to Israel and the Gulf Arab states, and frankly the United States, which is in Iran.
I want to pivot a bit and ask you about some news that just came out yesterday. President-elect Trump is promising to use tariffs, as you, I'm sure, have seen. Last night he posted that he intends to put a 25% tariff on all products coming from Mexico and Canada. He wrote, quote, "This tariff will remain in effect until such time as drugs, in particular fentanyl, and all illegal aliens stop this invasion of our country." When you were Trump's national security advisor in 2018, you were in the middle of difficult trade negotiations with China that were focused on intellectual property. You said back then to NPR that the main thing is to protect American jobs and American companies from the unfair treatment that they've received at the hands of the Chinese government. I want to ask you, though, it doesn't seem now like the main thing is about unfair trade. This is about drugs and migrants, according to the incoming president. Do you think that these tariffs could work to pressure Mexico, Canada, and China to cut the flow of this illegal drugs?
Well, I think it's an indiscriminate response to a very serious problem. Trump likes tariffs. He doesn't really understand how they work. He doesn't understand that it's not foreigners paying these tariffs. It's American companies that import goods, and those companies in turn pass the cost on to the extent they can to American consumers. So you could see higher consumer prices in a lot of products very quickly. I'm not sure Trump has really processed that. Nor do we know exactly what the reaction in this case of Mexico and Canada and China. But
see, once again, you know, first of all, he's not an economist, but you know, and he's more international affairs, defense kind of guy. But the thing is that just common sense states that this is not a static thing, and it changes over time, and it's multivariable. The economy is multivariable. So if Trump does use tariffs as a tactic for negotiation, not all the tariffs are going to be implemented, because there's going to be some sort of positive negotiation that comes out of that tactic. In addition, and with some products that will have the high tariff, some of those products will end up being made somewhere else, either domestically in the United States or in another country. So in the long term, it's weakening China, which is what we want. And in the long term, it's strengthening America, which is what we want. You know, why should we always knee jerk for Walmart? Whatever the economic policy is, we have to have it approved by the Walmart family. Why? Why? Why is he towing the line for the Walmart family? Don't worry about individual products that may have additional costs associated to it. What we really need is a overall long-term strategy to bringing back manufacturing and making the United States have a better footing in terms of self-reliance. What's wrong with that?
The broader tariffs Trump has proposed during the campaign, what the Europeans will do, what Japan, South Korea will do, and I don't think any of us want to find ourselves in a trade war over these tariffs.
The bottom line was this. The bottom line was this. When people wanted, back in the 80s, people wanted to buy Japanese vehicles, all right, and not American vehicles, Reagan said, you want to sell your Japanese vehicle? You need to build a plant in America, and then you can sell them. That hired American workers, that helped create economic clusters. That was the right policy. But when that was happening, people would say, oh, you're going to be, you're going to be hurting the industry. You're going to be, causing, inflationary problems and blah, blah, blah. It didn't happen. Bringing back manufacturing in the United States is a positive thing, not a negative thing. Now we have all these, transplants in the United States by Daimler, by Nissan, by Toyota, that hired American workers. And all that economic clustering that's happening around those plants. Those are huge economic engines for, states in the South, or even Tennessee. These people, I'm telling you, Trump's tariff idea is genius. It's genius.
Anyone with $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans may qualify for help from National Debt Relief. Minimum payments could literally keep you in debt for decades.
I was looking at a Cato Institute report that came out in August of this year that also found that 80% of people who were encountered at U.S. ports of entry with fentanyl were U.S. citizens, and they were not even illegal immigrants, which is how the former president is sort of tying this together right now. I mean, do you think that this would even stop Mexico, or how are Mexico and Canada supposed to stop this kind of drug flow with tariffs if most of the fentanyl coming across the borders is coming on U.S. citizens?
Isn't this amazing?
Right.
Isn't this amazing? And how she frames the question to a deep stater like Bolton. Yesterday, I said, what was the deep state going to do? They're going to try to demonize closing down the border because the CIA needs to run drugs for their black ops. And if you don't believe me, just look at the history on, what they have been doing for, 5 decades.
That's the way it's coming in. It's coming in through drug cartels in Mexico, which are getting the fentanyl precursor chemicals from the Chinese. I mean, it's a criminal enterprise that has really had a profound impact inside Mexico, and the trade is only incidentally related to it. I think this is more trying to find ways to persuade Americans that bad things happen in other countries and we should do something about it. I don't think tariffs are the answer. By the way, Canada...
I don't know. This is just a hypothesis, but I think I found where the deep state is hiding. It's hiding in his mustache. John Bolton's mustache. That's where the deep state is.
So our two biggest trade partners, and by slapping tariffs on them, we're going after two of our best friends economically. So that should give people something to take pause on, I think.
Let's talk about the transition. You recently said that President-elect Trump's nominee for the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was, quote, a threat to our national security at really a completely different level. I'm wondering what made you say that?
Well, she's made many comments over the years about the rulers of Syria, Russia, other countries that are enemies of the United States that indicate she really... her views aren't simply extreme, they come from another planet. And if those, in fact, are what she believes and who knows else what she has in mind, that's a very dangerous gamble to entrust her with responsibility for our country's most sensitive intelligence information and sources and methods. So I think what we need here, and we need it really for all the nominees, this is what happens.
No, we couldn't have someone that wasn't inculcated. We can't have someone that wasn't inculcated by the deep state because we would be afraid to have restructuring. And let's demonize her by saying that she's a Russian spy. I mean, I swear, the Bolton and the crew that, try to demonize the nominees, you can read them like a book. It's like a spy novel. It's amazing.
presidential transition, when a new president comes in, they need to be subject to a full field FBI background investigation. So we can learn what there is to learn about them. If there's nothing in their past, they don't have anything to worry about. But especially somebody dealing with the most highly classified information, the Senate, really the president himself, should want to know everything about such a person before they put him in that kind of job.
There have been a few elected Democrats who have suggested that she is compromised by a foreign country. Do you think that? And have you ever seen any information that suggests that? I know you have had access to information that some of us maybe don't have.
Yeah, because it's in his mustache.
Yeah, well, look, I'll just put it this way. Some of the things she said about Russia in particular.
See?
As others
See what
have
I'm
said
saying?
as well, they look a lot like...
They are playing the Russian game again, but instead it's not with Trump, like with the first term, it's his nomination, his nominees. Yeah, they must be Russian spies. What they really are people that want to restructure the national security state because the national security state is out of control. They're wasting our money. They're taking powers that they shouldn't have. And they bloated out over the decades, and they need to be restructured. Why is the NSA spending all this money to build server farms in the West, in the desert, to collect your data? Why? Why? Shouldn't we be using that money to feed the homeless? Shouldn't we be using that money to help our veterans? Instead of building server farms to collect data on its citizens? But Bolton, you know, because the deep state's hiding in his mustache, everybody's a Russian spy.
Repeating Russian talking points. I mean, she said a number of things that Mitt Romney, former Senator Romney, said were treasonous. So whether there are connections to foreign governments, I don't know, and I wouldn't want to make the comment without information. That's what the full field FBI background investigation, I think, will uncover, if there's anything there. And maybe there's nothing there, but if there is, we need to know about it.
I want to ask you about a couple.
Dude, the technology in this thing is insane. Watch this.
They're going to try to demonize her.
I want to ask you about a couple of men that you worked alongside with in the Trump White House. Rick Grinnell is currently being considered, according to Reuters, as a special envoy for the Ukraine-Russia conflict. And then also Kash Patel, whose name has been floated for senior roles either at the FBI or CIA. What can you tell us about them? Would they be good additions to the administration? Do you have concerns, as we have heard from some Democrats, some folks here in Washington, about either of these men?
Well, Kash Patel, I would put pretty nearly in the same category as Matt Gaetz and Tulsi Gabbard. I wouldn't let him anywhere near the intelligence community or the FBI. Grinnell has had diplomatic experience.
No, we can't have Kash in because he wants to restructure. He's going to perturb the deep state. We can't have Kash in there, no way. See, this is the problem with people like Bolton. This is the problem with the deep state. They're not willing to admit they need to be restructured because it's been nothing but a power grab. Now, that power grab is going on, probably since the end of World War II. But there was a major power grab right after 9/11, and they are not willing to relinquish it. And we need people like Kash in positions. We need people like Tulsi in those positions. We need people like Peter Hegseth in those positions to be able to restructure. See, what you're seeing is that battle between managers coming in to try to restructure a company and the staff that's been embedded into the old culture that's not willing to change. But the thing is, with company restructuring, most companies don't have nuclear weapons. The national security state is controlling our nuclear weapons. Big problem.
He's loyal to President Trump, which is what Trump wants more than anything else. I don't, from my own knowledge, have any inside information about what he's being considered for, but he worked for me as the spokesman at the U.S. mission to the UN back in the George W. Bush administration, and did a good job. Let's see what position he's actually named to fill.
Do you think that his comments, specifically Grinnell's comments in the past about the Ukraine conflict and how that could be solved, are in line with what is realistic right now in the conflict between Ukraine and Russia? In other words, would he be a good pick for incoming President-elect Trump for that role? Because it's also a role that would be new. This would be something that does not exist right now either.
Right, it would not require Senate confirmation. I think his views are very similar to Trump's. I think that's one reason that Trump would pick him. He Trump wants not loyalty, but fealty from his subordinates. And I think the problem on Ukraine wouldn't be Grinnell, it's Trump's views that are the problem. I think they're very badly misguided. I think it would be a huge mistake effectively to throw Iran under the bus, which certainly is the plan that Vice President-elect J.D. Vance suggested during the campaign, that he would find a viable solution to this unprovoked Russian aggression. I think we should recognize the Biden administration has not done well, didn't think strategically about how to help Ukraine, but bringing this war to a close that in any way legitimizes Russia's unprovoked aggression is a mistake in Ukraine, and it's a mistake that will cost us really around the world, because we will...
Unprovoked aggression, NATO expansion was provoking the aggression. But if you say that, the national security state thinks you're just towing the line for the Russians. See, everyone's a Russian spy if you don't believe in what the national security state wants you to believe. That's the problem with Bolton and the deep state in his mustache. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help support my work by purchasing the products I have. I have vitamin D3. This is very important to absorb calcium. It's a gene expression cofactor, so you have proper cellular processes. In addition, it helps to get rid of cells that need to go into apoptosis. That's very important if a cell is infected. And K2, MK7, this is a great vitamin to take every day. It helps with your bones and with your cardiovascular. It's synergistic with D3, so please take them together. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the K2 and the D3. I've set up, for ones that don't know, I have X spaces playing, so if you want to do a call-in, that's a great way to do that, to get your impressions or your observations of what's going on in the world. In addition, I also have live feeds. This channel is a live feed, but I also have my other YouTube channel, has the dashboard of the market. I'll read the market soon here. And I also have live feeds on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. So there's lots of different ways to view this kind of broadcast, and I'm developing some sort of capability where you'll have an app on your phone that will be able to do that too. All right, it'll take a little bit of time to do that, but I'm working on that. So please help support my work so we can expand this, because I want to set this thing up where we can talk in real time when news breaks, because it's going to be important. Some of the things that are going to be starting to transpire during the Trump administration, I think, are going to be very profound, and we need to make sure that we coordinate and we talk, and it's not just one directional. All right, so it's kind of like a real war room, where the audience is a part of it. All right, so I'm building that out. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help build this thing. All right, save the planet, maybe save our country. We'll see. And what else oh, the market. So the S&P 500 now is trading below 6,000. It's at 5,998. So it's a little bit of a sell down. Now, it is the day before Thanksgiving, so, you know, liquidity is probably going to really drop after noontime. You know, right now it's 11:10 a.m. So liquidity is probably going to drop right after noon. So this is, you know, just people just, you know, basically closing positions or just not wanting to put anything in. The VIX is trading at above 14. It's still low risk. And the Euro USD is trading at 1.057. So the dollar is weakening a little bit relative to the euro. And oil is trading at $69 a barrel. Bitcoin ETF BITO is trading at 25.72. Relative to the short ETF for Bitcoin, BITO is up today by 1.3. Okay, let's continue on with Mr. Deep State.
So weak if that's what we accept.
We are learning that the Trump transition team is still not signed some of these memorandum of understanding that help the transition team and are a legal flag post in terms of moving through the transition process. What are the national security implications here in DC for the outgoing administration and for the incoming one that they have not signed these important documents?
Right. Well, the transition teams want to get inside the government departments and agencies. They want people to be able to look over what the current state of play is, learn what the key policy issues that are going to arise in the next 6 months or a year. They want to see what changes can be made in structures and management of the different agencies. And I mean, obviously, you can't just allow people to walk in off the street and say, hey, we're here from the transition, let us see everything you've got. You've got to have a structure to make sure that the people are legitimate representatives of the transition and have an understanding what they can do and what they can't do. They're not the government yet. They're the transition, and a good transition means cooperating with them, but they're not going to be running these departments. And if you don't even do the preliminaries, you're not going to get the transition started. And the less work you do before January 20, the more unprepared the new administration will be, and that can be very risky.
It wouldn't matter if you're going in to restructure the organization, because why ramp up with current policy when you know you want to reverse that policy? It's like buying a building, right? And you want to demolish the building to rebuild a new building. Why do you care about all of the, you know, the nitty-gritty of certain goods and bads of that building if you're going to restructure it, you're going to rebuild it, you're going to renovate it? It doesn't matter, Bolton. It doesn't matter. If we are able to get the nominees in and get them confirmed through the Senate, it doesn't matter, because the status quo is going to be reversed. It's going to be changed.
Dangerous times.
Yeah, it's dangerous times because of deep state.
Something that has to do with classified documents. Special Counsel Jack Smith has moved to abandon the classified documents in the January 6th cases against the president-elect. The Justice Department policy was clear on this. You cannot prosecute a sitting president. So Smith seems to have had little choice. Do you think he made the right call as somebody who has handled those kinds of documents many times in your career?
Look, I think the documents case, the classified documents case, was the most serious of all the legal charges brought against Trump. I thought some of them, especially at the state level, were...
He's the president. He can declassify. He was the president, and he wanted to release the JFK files, but Pompeo said, don't do it. Just release some of them. Because methods and certain individuals need to be protected. Why? Oh, maybe some of those documents kind of proves Trump's point about the national security state being weaponized against political opponents. So if that was the big enchilada, according to Bolton, you know, the most egregious thing that Trump did, he's the president of the United States. He can declassify it. He can have it in his possession. By just having it in his possession, he declassified it. According to the Presidential, you know, Records Act. Now, who has pontificated about the details of that is Mark Levin. So if that's the biggest thing that Trump did, it's minor. Now, what is major is that Hillary Clinton had classified documents. She never was president. She should have never had that. Biden had classified documents in his possession before he was president. He should never have that because the Presidential Records Act is for presidents, not Secretary of State, not vice presidents, not senators. So the egregious thing was from Hillary Clinton and Biden. And who knows what Barack Obama has. But, you know, Barack Obama was president, so it's kind of the same case with Trump. But, you know, the point here is that the president has certain authorities that other administration officials or congressional officials don't have. So why don't they go after Biden? Oh, they were going to, but they said that he's mentally unfit to be able to stand trial or the investigation. What about Hillary Clinton? Oh, you know, we can't go there because of the deep state. Yeah, I'll tell you, Trump's right. You need to hunt these fuckers down and you need to prosecute them because they were breaking the law.
Were politically motivated, and I'm, you know, my view on Trump is clear. So I'm not defending him just reflexively. But the documents case was serious. I think Smith did the right thing. It is Justice Department policy not to prosecute a sitting president. I think what we're going to wait for now are the reports, both out of Jack Smith's January the 6th case and the document production case, which he's required to prepare for the Attorney General.
Now let's just put on our thinking cap for a sec. They want to hide an assassination that took place in 1963, you know, from the grassy knoll, right? But they want to release all these documents about Trump. Don't you think releasing something that happened with an assassination on a president in 1963 is long overdue? But we'll spend time worrying about Trump. Orange Man must be bad, but let's hide some of the nefarious things that the deep state did against JFK. I swear, if you shave the mustache of Bolton, you will find the deep state.
To become public, and I think they're going to contain a lot of very interesting information. So that could be on deck perhaps sometime next month.
Okay, well maybe we can bring you back once those reports are out.
Yeah, bring it back so we can, you know, demonize Trump.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing. Okay, let's go to Mexico, Canada, and China are flipping out because there's real leadership now. Before we do that, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help support the channel, help support your health by getting the drops, these structural nano silver drops. I have it in cherry, honey and lemon, and also in blueberry. All right, these drops, there's 100 of them in a bag. They're made from structural nano silver. The moment you have an irritation in your throat during the cold season or during the allergy season, take the drops, and what will happen is it'll neutralize that irritant and maintain that mucosal barrier to to calm down that inflammatory response, all right? Really important. You want to do that right away, all right? It's just common sense. You need a couple bags in your household to be ready when that does happen. We should be seeing increased cases in December, January, where, you know, your coworkers are going to be sick, your family members are going to be sick, your, you know, classmates may be sick, whatever, and you need to be prepared. So go to the store, get the blueberry, the honey lemon, or the cherry, structural nano silver drops, get a couple bags for your household, and be ready. Being ready, being prepared is the, you know, the best path forward, you know, for stuff like this. Okay, with that said, let's go to Fox News and let's see about how Canada is
One
flipping out.
ticker, one trade every week. Hey, millionaire trader Nate Bear here, and today I'm going to demonstrate how you can trade just one.
Meanwhile, a spokesperson at the Chinese embassy in Washington wrote this on X: "No one will win a trade war or a tariff war." Joining me now is Florida Congressman Mario Diaz-Balart. He's a member of the House Appropriations Committee. Congressman, good to see you. Thanks for being here this morning. Give us your reaction to these responses from Mexico, Canada, and China on Trump's tariffs.
Look, they are all flipping out all of a sudden. You know why they're flipping out, Maria? Because there's actually real leadership now coming from the United States because of President Trump. They're flipping out because they've had a green light to do whatever they have wanted to, abuse the United States, abuse the relationship. And again, thousands upon thousands of Americans have died because of fentanyl coming across the southern and mostly the southern and the northern border. And Biden and Harris have done nothing. Actually, they've been complicit in the death of those Americans. So good for President Trump. That's what leadership looks like. That's why the American people elected him. I just can't wait for him to swear in as the next president.
Well, what is Congress's role in all of these tariffs?
A lot of these things can be done by executive order, but I think you're going to see a lot of support, and I think bipartisan support coming from Congress to actually show leadership, to show that we're not going to be abused and used by all of these countries around the world. You know, President Trump has gotten criticism over the past because he says that the leadership in the United States has been really stupid at times. Well, look, you know something? He's right. It has been stupid. It has allowed sometimes adversaries, sometimes even allies, to use and abuse the United States. That's going to end with President Trump. That's going to end because we control the House and the Senate. Slim margins, but we control. So we'll be able to bring things to the floor. I think we'll get some bipartisan support on a lot of these things that President Trump is going to bring in front of Congress.
So lawmakers are facing another government funding deadline. Meanwhile, on December 20th, Speaker Johnson is pushing for a continuing resolution, which would extend the deadline into early 2025 and obviously Trump's second term. Treasury officials are now calling on Congress to unlock $20 billion in IRS enforcement money in the new budget. An official warning: if Congress does not release that money, the IRS would have to stop hiring and will run out of enforcement money during fiscal year 2025. What's your take here, Congressman?
Look, we have to get the appropriation bills finalized, and we have to get the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Bill, done. The sooner that we do it, the better. But I constantly hear, you know, the bureaucracies cry wolf, that they need something today, they need it right now, otherwise the world is going to fall apart. No. We have to get our job done. I actually want to get it done the sooner the better so that we can start with a new president, a new Congress, fresh, with the very aggressive agenda that the American people have given some mandate to do. However, I don't think the world is not going to fall apart if we don't get it done tomorrow. The sooner that we do it, the better. To clear just clear everything off so that we can start with a new agenda. But I'm not too concerned about the world falling apart right now.
What is the plan on extending the tax cuts, Congressman? Are you going to do that through a new continuing resolution in January? How do you do it?
I think, most things require 60 votes in the Senate. I don't know if we would have 60 votes in the Senate. I don't know if we would have that many Democrats. But we have a procedural way to do things that are strictly budgetary through this process known as reconciliation that only requires 51 votes in the Senate. So we're going to be very aggressive how we use reconciliation. And I think you're going to see a lot of really important policy changes including potentially the tax, keeping the taxes low through reconciliation. We're going to do as much as we can through reconciliation. The limit is what the Senate agrees or does not agree. Actually, the parliamentarians in the Senate agree to not agree to put in reconciliation. But we have a very aggressive agenda. We think that we have to do it all really within the first year. So I think we'll probably use reconciliation for many of these budgetary type issues.
So when is reconciliation happening?
We will start that, but well, actually, let me restate that. Those conversations between the Speaker, the leadership, and President Trump have already been taking place as to how that reconciliation package will look. And as soon as we have a new Congress with the new president, we can start putting those bills together. It's a huge piece of legislation. But those conversations, they're not negotiations, they're conversations with President Trump and the Republican leadership. That's already taking place.
I understand. I'm just trying to understand when the tax cuts get extended. They happen at the end of 2025 when they expire, or do they happen? So they happen next year. The reconciliation will happen next year.
Correct, because we have to control the House, the Senate, and the White House, and that happens after the new Congress and the new president gets sworn.
Okay. Meanwhile, Congressman, you've got the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget estimating that in order for you and your colleagues to extend the tax cuts without adding to the national debt.
I'll take the question from X spaces right after this. There's another couple minutes left to this video.
Need to come up with at least $4 trillion in offsets. The committee says lawmakers can limit executive spending, reduce healthcare spending, increase user fees, asset sales, improve tax compliance, or cut mandatory spending and raise other revenues. Are you thinking about this? What about the offsets? Do you agree that you need $4 trillion in offsets?
Well, Maria, you know what's not in their list? Economic growth. You know, how you really solve the problem is by getting the economy going. And you get the economy going by exactly what we want to do, which is by keeping taxes low. That's not part of their list. It's the usual thing, right? That they always talk about all the horrors, that if you take less of people's money, the world is going to fall apart. No, taking less of people's money actually creates economic growth. We saw that during the Trump tax cuts in his first term. So you're going to see this economy blossom. And unfortunately, what you see coming from DC a lot of times is horror stories, is talking about the horror stories that will happen if we take away, we confiscate less money from the American people. That's absurd. Can we find savings? Yes, and we will. But the key is economic growth, and you do that by doing the things that President Trump has been talking about. He is absolutely right. This economy is going to blossom. That will solve many of our problems.
All right. Yes, you hit it. Growth is not in that list. Good point. Congressman, it's good to see you. We'll be watching your work.
All right. We definitely need tariffs, and we'll be better off if we have tariffs, to help our economy out. But what I want to do before I take the call here, just quickly, just do a product plug here. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the olive leaf extract. This is a dual purpose product. This is a great way to improve your immune system and your cardiovascular system. It brings down inflammation to help your immune system and your cardiovascular system, and it can help with your lipid profile. It lowers LDL levels and increases your HDL levels. That means that it's improving your total cholesterol. So please, go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the olive leaf extract. Really important to take every day. What's synergistic with olive leaf extract is omega-3. Omega-3 should be taken every day to help with your lipid profile. Again, it lowers your LDL levels and increases your HDL levels. And another great product that I have on my store to help with cardiovascular health is nattokinase. Nattokinase is what I've been taking. I added it to my stack. It's fibrinolytic, so it helps to break up clots, but also it helps to bring down LDL levels and increase your HDL levels. So these three together, if you would like, can be stacked to improve your cardiovascular health. So please, go to my store, get the nattokinase, the omega-3, and the olive leaf extract. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up for this request on X Spaces. So let me get this going here. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? I think you need to turn on your mic. Hello? I gave you the ability to speak, but you have to unmute your mic. Hello? Hello? Do you want to unmute your mic so you can ask a question or give a comment? Hello? No. All right, I'm not sure if they want to answer or not. If you want to speak, just request again, and then I'll unmute you. But you have to make sure that your mic is on so you can ask the question. All right. Unfortunately, they didn't do that. But just a reminder for the ones that are watching live, you can call in. Just go to my channel on X, follow the spaces. For Telemetry episode 34 live call in, and then just raise your hand and you can make a comment, ask a question, whatever. All right. But it's supposed to be interactive, so the more interactive, the better. All right, what's going on here? News. Let's go to Bloomberg live here and see what they have to say about what's going on in the fixed market, fixed income.
Great. You have to talk about currencies.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when we look at that, it's like, the yen looks like an incredibly attractive. The dollar's been on a run.
And it's so weak. I mean, you can buy more than 150 yen for $1.
But I think both from an economic perspective, from an interest rate perspective, and a growth perspective, you've got three nice tailwinds behind the yen right now, and it's gone against you for the last month. But it's kind of value investors. What we think is like that's just a buying opportunity. You're getting it at a better price right now to purchase that currency.
How about emerging markets? Do you guys traffic in that a lot? Or?
All over, and talk about the election and tying it back to emerging markets, like great opportunities cross currents, like with regards to tariffs and immigration and the currency volatility. It's created opportunities, kind of bottoms up, kind of issue selection opportunities, and kind of where we've been favoring is economies that are more in emerging markets that are more idiosyncratic. So kind of less exposed to generic like tariff increases on high exporting economies, rather the other side where the economies tend to be more isolated and they've had very favorable fundamentals behind them.
Damn, I want to come back as a macro trader, dude. That's where all the action is.
I know.
Yeah.
Why are we stocks guys?
You could be
so
the next
boring.
You could be the next Treasury Secretary.
Yes,
you could be a macro.
No, I think macro trading is the better way to go. One, it reduces the idiosyncratic risk of an individual stock. But, of course, there are people that just prefer the micro, trading kind of stuff, the individual stocks. But I think macro is the best way to go.
Right?
And there was a time right before the great right before Brexit when I said, an argument can be made, and I was in London making this argument, that London's right there with New York in terms of a global financial
Yes. In terms of a global financial capital.
And then Brexit happened, and look where they are now.
I mean, remember before Rudy Giuliani started dripping, hair dye down his forehead, he used to go on this big whirlwind tour saying New York is the capital of the world, and always say, our city is better than yours, talking about LA.
Yes, exactly.
Those were the days.
Those were the days.
We were killing it back then.
We were. We gotta get. We had
Whitney Tilson.
Yeah, we had him in earlier.
Yeah, I had him on my television program as well. I think that's a pretty interesting candidacy, and we'll see how far it goes. But if he gets the support of the New York Post, I think he's got a lot of wind behind his sails.
It's gonna be a crowded race, though, right?
Yeah, but everybody's to the left of Adams except for Tilson. And I mean, in the Democrats, right? Obviously, you're not going to have a Republican governing this city.
Very good. All right, coming up, we're going to check in with Barry Ritholtz. Now, there's some economic market things we could talk to him about.
Well, why don't we just talk about cars?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
S&P 500 converted his 911. He bought a classic 911, like a 70s 911,
Sure.
ripped out the engine and put in a battery.
What? All right, but that's
Sacrilege.
That's where we're going to start right there. We're going to have more coming up. This is Bloomberg. Good morning.
All right. So I want to go to the Hill, and they're talking about the trade wars that have been going on.
President-elect Donald Trump signaled Tuesday that he would put a 25% tariff on all imports from Canada, Mexico, and 10% on China, stoking fears that a trade war could be upon us. Trump blames his tariff threat on the influx of undocumented migrants and fentanyl coming through the borders. He maintains imposing import taxes will lead to more factory jobs, shrink the deficit, lower food prices, and allow government to subsidize childcare. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau weighed in on Tuesday. Here he is talking to reporters.
Good call with Donald Trump last night again. We obviously talked about laying out the facts, talking about how the intense and
I'll tell you, Trudeau is such a wussy. What surprises me is that Canadians voted that asshole into office.
Our two countries flow back and forth. We talked about some of the challenges that we can work on together. It was a good call. This is something that we can do. Laying out the facts, moving forward in constructive ways. This is a relationship that we know takes a certain amount of working on, and that's what we'll do.
If tariffs take hold, Canada is screwed, totally screwed. Canada needs the United States, and the political establishment, like Freelander and Trudeau, they are going to tank, totally tank, if they can't get a good deal, trade deal. They're scared.
One of the really important things is that we be all pulling together on this. The Team Canada approach is what works. That's where, putting aside partisanship, that's where I reached out immediately to Doug Ford to agree with him that we would have a First Ministers meeting this week to talk about the United States, talk with François Legault and some other premiers as well. There's work to do, but we know how to do it.
Economists are skeptical as Trump's tariffs could upend the 2018 USMCA free trade deal that his administration helped craft. Plus, they say relying on tariffs is an inefficient way for governments to raise money. Tariffs may be geared in other directions, but critics warn against the unintended effects on US consumers. Grocery bills could rise as the price of produce would go up. Overall, when combined, Canada and Mexico make up 52.6% of agricultural imports that come into the United States, 69.5% of oil and gas, and 49.7% of transportation equipment. Speaking in a press conference Tuesday, newly minted Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum vowed to stop migrant caravans from reaching the US border. On the issue of drugs, she contended that that's a US problem to deal with. And in response to Trump's threat of tariffs, Sheinbaum suggested that Mexico could retaliate with tariffs of its own.
Social media users reacted. Economist Douglas Boneparth posted, quote, "I'm going to buy a whole bunch of avocados and tequila before Trump tariffs Mexico, flip them, and make myself an easy 25% return." Liberal X account Art Candy posted, quote, "Things are about to get a lot more expensive. Bravo, mouth breathers." And Bacha Angar Sargon said, "Trump hitting the ground running with a promise of 25% blanket tariff on Mexico and Canada for their failure to enforce the border on their side and a 10% tariff on China over fentanyl. Absolutely epic stuff. This is what Americans elected him to do."
Damn right.
And it's still just November. So this is very interesting. I think most people should be able to agree that ideally we don't want to have tariffs. It is pretty incontrovertible that it raises the price of goods at a time where that is the #1 concern of all Americans, the high price of what they pay for groceries, what they pay for products. This is going to make things more expensive across the board also because, you know, if component resources become more expensive, For firms that manufacture them, or manufacture things that need those components, they just raise the price and pass that on to you, the consumer. So we definitely don't want to have tariffs. I think what people in Trump world who are defending this approach, the most honestly, who do know that, I saw commentary from the incoming Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, on this. The point is to induce different...
I'll take the question that's requested on X Spaces in 6 minutes.
Behavior from these other countries, from Mexico, Canada, and China. We're not really going to get different behavior from China, but maybe from Mexico and Canada. And so it's being used as a diplomatic tool, not that we're actually going to do them. Of course, if they believe we would never actually do them, then it doesn't really work as a diplomatic tool. But what's your take?
So my take is that this is already, excuse me, having immediate effects in that we saw instantly on the stock market the big automakers, to your point about component parts, Ford, GM, and what used to be Chrysler and is now Stellantis, falling quite sharply. Immediately these tariffs were announced or proposed by Trump. And that's a byproduct of the fact that if you put tariffs on Mexico in particular, and Canada to a degree, where they get a lot of their car parts and so forth, it would drive up their prices. And there has been research done by a group called Wolf Research that suggests that a 25% tariff on those nations would raise the average car price for Americans by $3,000. Now that is not a good thing. It looks like we've got tariffs on our lights, because I think someone just went out there. But in
They're motion censoring.
yeah, exactly. There's something happening. People are anyway. Beyond all of that, the problem is that there is an immediate negative impact, even if this is just a threat. And as you point out, if it is just a threat and is perceived as just a threat, it doesn't actually work because people don't think there will be follow through.
Right.
The threat relies upon the possibility that there will be follow through. And if there is follow through, as I think you and I both agree, that would have detrimental effects on American consumers and spur inflation.
Right, and this is, again, this is not some liberal criticism of Trump. Being suspicious of tariffs and pro-markets has been a Republican position for a long time. I was listening to Rand Paul talking about it on CBS over the weekend, and he's saying that, yes, we don't want to have tariffs. He's, in fact, tried to put forth legislation to maybe remind the president that it is Congress's job to make law and the president to carry it out. And so the declaration of tariffs should not be done by executive fiat anyway. It should be done by Congress.
Although he does have the power to do it, I believe, for national security.
This would restore it to. Well, yeah. Oh, we have the power to do everything for national security.
Right. I know. No, I mean, I'm not defended. I think it's skeptical of it.
Yes.
But anyway, yeah.
Yes. So we don't. So ideally, we don't want to have them. We don't want to make things more expensive. We don't want to make it inefficient to produce goods, to provide services. And then if we tariff them and they tariff us. So, you know, this is just like blowing up bridges or deciding to make things more expensive for no reason, or creating work. It creates some category of jobs or extra work for some people, which is good, but we're not all workers in one specific field. We're all consumers in a large economy. So you don't want to require that, to build a house, you have to get a jog and circle for 5 miles before you do it. That would create more work, but it would just make the price of everything more expensive. It just creates inefficiency for no reason. Right. So we don't want to do this. So I'm hoping this can be used just as a negotiating tactic and not actually something that gets imposed.
I wonder if the concept that you just described was sufficiently covered by the media during the campaign. We often criticize the quote-unquote mainstream media from other perspectives here, but the tariffs issue, there seems such widespread agreement that tariffs are fundamentally a bad idea. And yes, I know Trump imposed some limited tariffs in his first term, and I know that Biden didn't get rid of them all.
Well, that's what I would say.
But this is not what Trump is talking here about 25% on all goods from Canada and Mexico, and adding 10% to already existing tariffs.
Right.
So, I mean, that from China. So that is, I think, very problematic regardless of one's political position.
I mean, I agree with you, but I think the Canada and Mexico ones seem much more likely to be just negotiating tactics and not going to be implemented. And with the China one, which might actually go into effect because we're not going to get China to do anything differently, is more just kind of a continuation and in line with what Biden already did on this front. That is a a shame from my political vantage point, but there has been much more continuity on this aspect of policy than just about anything else between Trump to Biden and now to Trump again. I think Democrats, it would be difficult, I think, I mean, you can disagree with me if you want, I think it would be hard for them to run on, or would have been hard for Kamala Harris to run on, no, tariffs are bad, we're totally against them, when their administration was for that. I mean, that could have been a way she distinguished herself from Biden if given that she said, you know what, put it, that I would have agreed. That would have appealed to me as a swing voter if she said, yeah, the tariffs that Biden did are economically destructive, and we know those raise the price of things, and that was a mistake, and I don't want to do them, and we're going to have less tariffs. And under Trump, you will have tariffs, and you will pay more in prices. That would have been an appealing message.
I think what Democrats would argue is there's a difference between targeted tariffs, which do
It's not just the tariffs. It's building a manufacturing base so we are more self-reliant, especially if there is a war in the Pacific.
Still have an effect on there's all sorts of issues where China retaliated and
These people are one-dimensional.
Farmers in Iowa. But in any event, there's a difference between targeted tariffs and blanket tariffs, which tend to have.
They're only focused on the tariff side. They're not looking at the multiple.
Well, I know I'm stocking up on tequila just because that's what I do every weekend. Lots more to come on Rising soon. Please pay.
All right, so I'm going to be taking a call from X, but before I do that, let me just do a quick product plug here. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the resveratrol. I've been taking resveratrol for decades. This is an antioxidant. It helps to improve the health of the mitochondria. Mitochondria is really important for your ATP. You need that for energy for your cells. And resveratrol helps to get rid of senescent cells. And resveratrol stacks really well with many things that I offer on my store, like C60 and NAD+, NAC, and ubiquinol. So for NAD+, NAD+ is important to boost up energy levels, help to repair DNA damage, and also to help with neural health. Very important as you get older. So please go to my store, get the NAD+, stack it, and you're going to start seeing the benefits and the slowing down of the aging process and boosting up your immune system and your and health of your neurons. Ubiquinol. Ubiquinol is the best bioavailable CoQ10 that you can buy. All right? This is a very high quality product. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the ubiquinol. This is important because it's an antioxidant. It helps with energy levels, helps with the health of the mitochondria, and it helps with the health of your neurons. So when you get older, you need to really boost up your neurons. Very important. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the ubiquinol. This is very high quality. I've been taking CoQ10 for a long time. Ubiquinol is the best way to absorb CoQ10. So please go to my store and get the ubiquinol, add it to your stack. So I'm gonna open it up to this request on spaces, and hopefully this works now. Hello? Hello? You have to unmute your mic if you want to talk.
Hey Paul, what's up, buddy?
Hi, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to talk to you, man. First time caller, long time listener.
Great.
Man, you're the man.
Well,
hey, let me crank my car up real quick. I was just got back to the house from Honey Baked Ham. Gotta have a good ham for the holidays, right?
Right. So you're getting ready for the Thanksgiving.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, hey, listen, nobody was more right than Paul Cottrell on COVID-19, right?
Yeah, but that's true. But I try to stay away from saying certain words because of the censorship on YouTube. So let's try to stay away from certain words. But I appreciate you watching and calling. Do you have any comments or any questions?
No, I mean, listen, I think what you're doing is great. I love the work that you've done with George. I've been following it for a long time. I've got a lot of the same interests that you have with from financial markets to medicine. I'm not a doctor, but I do play one on TV. No, I'm a retired pharmaceutical rep.
Yeah. Oh, my father retired from AstraZeneca as a pharmaceutical rep.
Oh well, yeah.
Yeah.
I was with Merck for almost 22 years, and so I just retired, and I actually just went back to work with another company. So no, I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. What happened with my father is that he retired in I think it was 2008. So he got hit by the whole Lehman debacle. So his savings was like cut in half.
Oh man,
it sucked. And he chose to retire early. He chose to do it at, I think, age 62, age 63. And I in a way I'm glad that he did, because you know that my father is in the nursing home now, right? Did you know that? Maybe not. Hello? I'm losing your connection here. Yeah, for some reason the connection's really bad. Can you hear me? Hello? It's a little bit better, but it's still. Try speaking again. No, it's something. It's like it's almost like you're in a tin can. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but my father, he retired a little bit early, and I'm glad that he did, because he ended up getting ischemic dementia in his mid 70s, or late, about 78 when I think is when he got his ischemic dementia. So at least he was able to enjoy his retirement, as much as he could. So I guess retiring for him a little bit earlier was better. But yeah, he was affected by that whole Lehman crash. Can you hear me now?
Hey, can you hear me better now?
Yeah, it's better. It's a lot better.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Good.
Yeah. So yeah, my father. Yeah, my father. He tried to retire a little bit early. But he was right in that whole Lehman crash thing. It sucked. It really sucked for him.
Yeah, I hate that, man. It's that thing affected a lot of people. So.
Mm-hmm. And he started pharmaceutical sales when he started pharmaceutical sales in the 70s, late 70s, and it was like totally different. He was in ophthalmology sales, and he was working for I think a company called Cooper, and then they were bought out. There was like lots of consolidation going on in the 80s, and then eventually he ended up at Johnson & Johnson under IO Labs. And then eventually he left there and then started working for AstraZeneca. But, yeah.
Well, it feels like he had a great career. So that's fantastic.
No, he saw a lot. He saw huge changes in the industry.
Yeah, there's big changes, man. I tell you. So how old were you when you went back to med school?
I started my medical school journey in my late 40s. So.
You're about 52. So, I have thought times about going to medical school myself. I don't know. I've just over the years that was a strong thing for me. Many years I thought I'd go back to school, but I got a bunch of kids, and I was like, I don't know, it's be tough.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think that it's important to just, it's important to look at family life and side on spending time with family more than, pursuing other credentials or stuff like that. Life is very short. And it's just, I think this is a lesson learned that I saw with what happened to my mother and father. So I think it's very important to just kind of enjoy your life. And you don't have to constantly be chasing something. There's no you just There's, plus the industry, things are changed. Things are totally changing with AI and regulations and I'm sure you saw huge regulatory problems even in pharmaceutical sales, through your
Oh yeah, and they've introduced AI in pharmaceuticals as well. I mean, you kind of see where it's going in a lot of ways. Some parts of the business. I mean, I can remember back in the day where they wanted us to get, they wanted us to get our customers, their email addresses, and I was like, okay, and the reasoning was, well, you can send them information that they need, and I promised them, I said, I will never ever send you something unsolicited. I'll only send you something that we've had a conversation about something, and I think it's something that'll answer a question or be beneficial. I'll send it to you. But like now, I don't know for sure, but I don't doubt in my mind that they don't just.
It just goes into a junk box. It just goes into a junk box.
Yeah.
Unless they really want the information, they know the person, or they really want the information or an update. But the thing is that people are people in general, outside of just the medical world, but just people in general are being bombarded by too much junk, either in the mailbox or in the email box, or I mean, just looking at YouTube these days, I mean, we are bombarded by commercials, and I hate doing these product placement commercials on my show, but that's I have to do it to just remind people this is what to take to help your health, to help to boost up your immune systems, or to target a certain system. You can take charge of your health by just changing one's lifestyle. But the weird thing about commercials is that you have to constantly remind the audience the benefits of a particular product, or they forget about it. Even though you've said it 1,000 times, it just leaves their mind. So this is the reason why you see like a Colgate commercial, on TV every 30 seconds. But it's unfortunately we are bombarded by commercials, and it's becoming more and more problematic even in the email realm. I just most of my stuff just goes into the junk box. I mean, it's just out of control. I mean, there was a time during the heyday of 2020, I literally was getting 800 emails a day.
No way.
Yep. And people were like, "What do I do? I'm scared." And it's like it was like a tsunami. I could not respond to it all. It's just.
I mean, but isn't that amazing the impact on people's lives that you had right then? I mean, that's really kind of amazing, but it is overwhelming. If you're getting that many emails a day, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't respond to everybody. I just can't do it.
Literally for 30 to 60 days straight, I was going, 16 hours a day, so, I was burning myself out. And you could kind of see it. There were times where I was stressed out, and there were times that I was upset. There were times that I was frustrated. But we're past that crisis. There is like a slower, like a fire. When there's a fire in a forest, there's the raging fire, but then there's the slow burn of it afterwards. The smoldering that could spark another fire. That's where we're at right now. It's just smoldering. But we just went through the raging, forest fire, and it's out.
Oh yeah.
But
it's smoldering. I was one of those that when I caught COVID-19, when I caught the illness there, I mean, man, I was in the hospital for 3 weeks, man. I was bad sick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm.
Do you remember what your pulse ox was?
So I went up to see my doctor, and I had just kind of got I had like a telemark. It was like a telehealth lunch with a doctor in another part of the state, and he heard me cough, and he's like, "You need to go get that seen about." And I'm like, "I am." So I went to go get it seen about, but I had to wait a couple of days. And by the time that I got to my doctor, he was like, he's like, "Parker, you are so sick." He's like, "Why did you wait this long?" He's like, "Do you want to go home or you want to go to the hospital?" I was like, "I want to go to the hospital." And I would say that I got down. They had to put me on a BiPAP at one time, and they were talking about, and I didn't know this because it was about a 24, 40-hour time frame where I was not really coherent. But put it this way, the nurse that took me to the pulmonologist, he knew my brother, and he told my brother, and he told me too. He said, "I didn't think you were going to make it because I was purple or blue or whatever in the face." And so I was probably, I don't know, in the 60s maybe. I mean, or 70s, and I was really bad low.
You could have died. You could have died.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was terrible. They put me on the BiPAP, but I was in the 80s, man. I was in the 80s, and the nurse comes to me and says, "Hey, we're going to roll you over." And I said, "Oh, you're going to pronate me. Damn it, why didn't we think of that yesterday?" I mean, because I wasn't thinking right. My mind wasn't thinking. I knew about the pronation technique. They rolled my fat ass over, and man, my pulse ox went from like 85 to like 95 in like 2 minutes. Just by rolling me over, man. So that lung tissue that got exposed was good lung, and they were like, "Can you hold this position for a while?" And I'm like, "Damn straight, I can hold this position for a while." And it was at that moment when they rolled me over and I got back up into the 90s. I had hope that I might make it out of there.
Did you feel like did it feel like you were drowning?
Man, I don't know. I don't know that I felt like I was drowning, man. I just remember just being so out of it, man. And like when they wheeled me in there, man. I just remember the worst part of it was when they put that BiPAP. That's what it's called, right? BiPAP. That it's like the next.
CPAP.
Yeah, so it was like what do they call the thing? It's like you're like Darth Vader. It's like a mask. It's like forced oxygen, air, and it was and that thing. I had to wear that thing for like 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, man. It was ridiculous, and I remember talking to whoever the rep was, like with the respiratory company, because I found out, later as I was recovering that they had considered intubating me, and I asked them what the death rate was from intubation.
Oh, it's high. It's very high.
And he said, "You don't want to know." I said, "Go ahead and tell me. I want to know."
No.
It was like 90%, man.
It's
I was
high,
like,
yeah,
I was like, shit.
No, that's the problem. Is once you go down that road, it's almost like no point of no return.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but I mean, like I said, about 48 hours there, man. I really don't remember much. I just kind of in and out of consciousness.
That's why it's so important to keep that pulse ox up.
Oh yeah.
Because as it drops, it keeps on dropping and dropping and dropping, and they can't. You just can't stop the precipitous drop. The only solution after that is intubation.
Yep. Well, it was bad, man. I just to be that sick.
So that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand is that just imagine being in a situation where you see a patient and they just keep on getting worse and worse and worse. You're trying everything and they're just getting worse and worse and worse to the point where they either they can't breathe and they're not getting enough oxygen into their blood, or you have to intubate them. And but you also know that if you intubate, they're probably going to die. But if you don't, they're probably going to die. So I mean, so there's no that's why it was so important for people to like right away, take care of it instead of it, getting worse and worse. A lot of people just let it get worse and worse. But I don't want to focus on what happened during the crisis because of just the censorship on YouTube. So I've been trying to stay away from these kind of topics. So let's.
Well, I'm sorry, bro. I didn't mean to.
No, it's all right. It's all right.
Bad topic lane or whatever, but no, but man, I really appreciate your work, and like I said, I'll try to go to your website and support you any way I can.
Great.
Thank you. I like the work that you're doing. I just want to call and encourage you, give me an encourager for you, and keep doing what you're doing, man. You're doing a great job, and you're helping a lot of people. So.
Right. Well, that was the goal, but it's I'm trying to create something where it's a little bit more interactive and more live, live interaction. I do think that as Trump's administration, gets, established and we're moving through his second term, things are going to happen geopolitically and even domestically that I think that'll be important to cover, and I think a lot of people will have some insight, and that's why I'm trying to create this interactive kind of setup. So.
Well, like I said, you're doing a great job. Stay positive and keep going and keep working, and just you eat an elephant, you eat an elephant one bite at a time. So just keep going.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I'm gonna go back to the show here. But thank you for the call. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, buddy. I'll keep listening. See ya.
All right. Have a good day and have a good Thanksgiving.
You too, buddy.
Bye bye. Okay, so just to remind the audience, there are 3 ways to see this live stream: on this channel, on the larger channel, on the other YouTube channel where you see the dashboard of the market, and news, live feed news coming from Dow Jones. And you can also see either version of the live stream on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. You just go to broadcast and go to live, drop it down, and then I'll take you to that page, and then you can see the live feed. And you can pick which one you want to see. So that's a great way to see. Also, just a reminder, you can join on X Spaces, and if you want, you can do a call-in, ask some questions, give your opinion on what's going on. It's a great way to interact. That's the whole goal of this. So, please participate that way. Let's continue on with this, the Hill, and then we'll go to another video here.
And I'll be delivering speeches with the cadence of Kamala Harris.
The Hill's done. So let's.
If we keep this up, stay tuned.
Alright, so what's going on with... Alright, let's go to this turkey. Since we were talking about Thanksgiving, this is Fox Business talking about Thanksgiving.
You can call me Detective Alex Cross. You're not in my head. Definitely rent free.
Right here, right now. We'll show you how.
This is the premium Garmin Duffel 45 liter by Half Day. It's a transforming 2-in-1 travel duffel bag for long weekends, weddings, and business trips.
Apologize for all the commercials.
So as Thanksgiving approaches, we have so much to be thankful for, particularly as Americans, right? This renewed animal spirit, it's not just markets, it's the country. Everyone's hoping for prosperity without inflation. However, higher prices remain central, certainly at this moment, a central theme for our economy. Although along with the cultural battle, persistent inflation, obviously, probably the most significant factor with the election outcome. And some of the more egregious price increases, really ironically, cross the cultural battle would be pumpkin spice latte. I just want to show you this. It is actually up huge, more than home prices since 2005, 94 and 73% respectively. I mean, the election overall, listen, it was all about that. But the gaslighting, even though the election is up.
Pumpkin spice lattes are up 94%. I mean, come on. We have runaway inflation going on here. Actually, a pumpkin spice latte sounds good.
The gaslighting continues. Check this out. NBC taking severe heat on a report that this upcoming Thanksgiving meal will only cost $5.80 a head for 10 people. Well, I shared it on X, and here's some of your responses. Let's just say that you're not buying it either about this. Listen, one viewer is tweeting a single wing. By the way, I love this. It's attractive, right? The wing with some garnish there. Another writing that this is an insane level of water for NBC to carry for the Biden administration, which I responded to with the lyrics. You remember, he ain't heavy, he's my brother. They're in this together, folks, all the way through. And at least one viewer tweeting out this picture or sending it on X, a hot dog with mustard on it. The NBC numbers look just about right if you're eating hot dogs. Honestly, though, I got to tell you, the number obviously seems extraordinarily low, although it made me think of my favorite Tupac song, Dear Mama, right? The part of this song where he praises his mother for making miracles every Thanksgiving.
I can see you coming home after work late. You're in the kitchen trying to fix us a hot plate. I just working with the scraps she was given, and Mama made miracles every Thanksgiving. But now the road got rough, you're alone, trying to raise.
You know, I tell you what, ladies, at $5.80, Mother will have to make miracles to make this one work. Let's bring in a power panel, all right? Heather Zumaraga's with us, Beverly Hallberg, both two of my favorites.
I mean, I don't know about you, but for sure, Thanksgiving is a little bit more expensive this year. All right, for sure. I mean, just the ingredients to, you know, make everything. The turkey's more expensive. Everything's more expensive. Now, I'm in New York, too. I mean, I also
So with you, Beverly, because for me, this is the more media gaslighting the public. I mean, to me, the real message is that the mainstream media hasn't gotten the real message.
The only thing I can come up with is that they're referring to the Hollywood elite who are on Ozempic and have little to no appetite. That's the only thing that makes sense for this number, because we all know you can't even take your family to McDonald's on this dollar amount. So I think you are right, this is gaslighting, and it is the doubling down, refusing to see what is. They're walking in lockstep with the Democrat Party and have failed to do any self-reflection and learn from lessons. They're going to continue to lose viewers, they're going to continue to lose people who want to read their so-called news.
Heather, your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, I love Tupac. Maybe he's still alive, but with $6 turkey, according to NBC, you're going to have to get around, as in I get around to many different grocery stores to find a turkey for less than $6. Completely out of touch with reality. Well, that's why the ratings are also tanking. You mentioned that the election was lost mainly in part due to the fact that the wealthy elite, yeah, they might not eat because they're on Ozempic, but they don't even go to the grocery store if they do eat. They probably have someone do it for them, have it delivered to them, so they're just completely out of touch with reality. Maybe at Chick-fil-A, if they sell turkey,
I don't know.
for $6.
But for 10 people, you know, and it's so funny because I had fun with this pumpkin spice latte chart. I had to use it, right? Yeah. But that crowd, they tried to get Harris across the finish line, and they couldn't, but they do have a lot of money. They spend a lot of money. And I want to go back to you, Heather, because I think that chart explains the inflation conundrum. Rich people are out there, the top 20% are doing 40% of the consumption. So all your, you know, a lot of your consumption data, your retail data, it remains high. The Fed's got to keep rates at a certain level, but everyone else is grappling because their credit card rate just went from 13% to 23%. How do we solve something like that?
Well, yeah, one way we solve it is...
Another commercial there.
Well, yeah, one way we solve it is not blaming small businesses and greedy, evil corporations, which are the words of Ms. Harris and the Biden administration. Remember, if she was elected, she was going to impose those price caps, Charles. I mean, my husband and his family have a food distributor down here in Florida, and they're squeezed. I mean, when margins, your margins are squeezed, your profits decline, he can't compete with the Amazons, the Bezos, and the Whole Foods. And so unless you pass those costs along to the consumer, then yeah, you're in a really tough place. And so I'm glad The new administration, President Trump is going to come in, rein in some of that wasteful government spending, also lower energy prices, and I think it's going to be a beautiful thing to bring down prices across the board.
You know, Beverly, President-elect Trump campaigned on jump-starting the housing market. We had housing data today. Wasn't great, but the housing prices keep going up and keep going up. What do you anticipate in terms of a rollout from Trump, the new Trump administration?
Now, first of all, I do think there is more of a sense of optimism. I looked at the housing numbers in my area in South Carolina, and sales have gone up slightly, so that's good. I think people at least have some certainty for the next 4 years. But he's talked about rolling back regulations, and also lowering energy costs will make sure that homes don't cost as much to build. But I really think there's this element until the economy fully gets back on track, unless interest rates start declining, especially first-time home buyers, young people in their 20s are not going to be able to afford those homes right now. I think this is a long-term battle that he's going to have to address.
All right, ladies, let's switch gears because you know what? I'm so unhappy with customer service. Almost everywhere I go, it's become an unmitigated disaster. But on that note, I think I found my next bank. Now, it's a Japanese bank, but it's called Shikoku Bank, and they pledge to commit seppuku, right? Which is essentially, if they commit fraud, any employee at the bank who steals money will pay for it with his or her own property and then commit suicide. All right, so Beverly, suicide aside though, I mean, think about this. Yesterday we found out someone at Macy's sold $100 million, right, or hit fraudulent payments. It just feels like there's a massive disconnect. So
I mean,
I'm looking at corporate culture.
This is crazy. Macy's had to delay their financial reporting because of $154 million employee scam.
And it seems like it's going in the wrong way. How do we fix that?
Well, putting suicide in an employee contract is quite putting the skin in the game. That's interesting. But here's what I would say. I would agree. We need better customer service, and we need people to be responsible. Here's my theory. Here's what I think you should do, is if you do steal from the customer and or the business, you have to work as janitor until you pay all the money back. You agree to do that. Manual labor is where it's at.
Yeah, I don't trust them now. I think the floors are going to be sloppy. They're not going to throw the garbage away. I don't trust them in that role. We got to give them something else. Hey, I want your opinion on this, Heather, but I'm going to skip to something else because I don't know if you guys saw, Warren Buffett put out a fascinating update on this will yesterday. And his intentions is to make sure that his children have enough money, to his point, he says, to do anything but not to do nothing. He wants them to give away 99% of his fortune. And he talks about, you know, that he doesn't think families should have this kind of money. And Heather, I want to talk to you because you're in the financial industry, and right now more and more Americans are trying to generate generational wealth. But Buffett thinks that's a mistake. What are you hearing from people?
I don't know. You know, I don't know what they're going to say because I haven't seen this video. But the thing is it's kind of a misnomer here. Warren Buffett pledges to donate 99% of his fortune after his passing. Now let's think about that for a second. How is he donating it? If it's going into some sort of trust fund, is it going into some sort of nonprofit where, you know, in the charter of the nonprofit, it's going to, you know, fund programs, but, you know, some of that money is permanently restricted? You know, what's the pay down of that money within that nonprofit or that fund? I'd like to know the details. Is he giving away 99% of it to taxes? Is he just giving it to the government? Is he giving it to, I don't know, the Democratic Party? Is he giving it to, some sort of other nonprofit? I don't know, whatever it is. Let's say, St. Jude or whatever, right? But I'd like to know the details because I suspect that he's hiding money through putting it into some sort of nonprofit trust fund kind of thing that has a permanently restricted part to it, a big permanently restricted part to it that generates funds, and those generated funds are spent out. There's more to the story on that.
Yeah, I I still do believe in transferring generational wealth, but to a certain extent. I mean, let's see, what are the numbers that we're talking about? 140 billion or something like that, right? So, I mean, look, his kids are tasked with the job of donating 99% of that to a charity that they all three of them have to agree on, and they're stuck with 1% of his net worth. So it's not that bad, but at the same time, he's saying, wait a minute, you want to make sure you give your kids enough, but not enough, so that they sit home and do nothing, right? You have to work, you have to contribute to the society, and you're not just spoon-fed. That is no way of giving back, and so he just wants to make sure that his kids contribute in some meaningful way.
You know, you got less than a minute to go, Beverly, and on top of that, he did talk about how grateful he was. He was born in America during the Great Depression, and look what he was able to become.
And I really think what he's talking about with his kid is making sure that they do work, because work brings dignity.
Now, Berkshire Hathaway has done very well over the decades, for sure. All right. You know, the Oracle of Omaha has done well, but he's amassed an amazing amount of cash. All right. The company has amassed an amazing amount of cash. Why isn't that cash either redeployed into purchasing businesses, creating new businesses, or buying shares back from the investors? So it's that cash is redeployed to the investor, or increased dividends. Why is he amassing cash? If he's so altruistic, why does he feel as though he should hold billions and billions and billions of dollars in cash and not give it to the shareholders? That's the bigger story here. Because he is a pig. That's why. So on one side of the story, he says, "Oh, I'm giving away lots of money, his own money." The other side of the story is that the company, Berkshire Hathaway, has held lots of cash on hand and is not willing to give it back to the shareholders, either through share buyback or increased dividend. There's no reason why a company should have $50, $100 billion in cash. The same problem with Apple. Apple has too much in cash, and they should be giving it back to the shareholders.
Being able to make something, create something, brings so much joy. You can look at plenty of extremely wealthy people. If they inherited it and didn't work for it, they often live unhappy lives. So I think this is the best thing he could do as a father. I think it leads to more happiness for his children.
And what about the notion of that you could be born in the Great Depression and still become one of the richest persons that ever lived in this world? Phenomenal, isn't it?
I think it's just what you talk about all the time. Yeah.
Yep.
It's the
Heather, Beverly, ladies,
I'm sure that Warren Buffett can afford his turkey this year. But I do think that he should give back that cash on hand to the shareholders. He shouldn't be hogging it all up. I think it's just wrong. Just wrong. All right, let's take a look at what else is going on in the news here. Alan Bragg, Challenger, says New Yorkers are fed up with far left DA. All right. Before I go to that, which is Fox News, I saw one of the council members for Manhattan, the Upper West Side. They had an event at the Harbor Club, and they were talking about what's going on with immigration. They were talking about many issues with New York City. And, one was the crime, one's the housing issue. Supposedly there's 540,000 units needed, housing units needed in New York City. I thought that was a large number. I was surprised at the number. 540,000 units are needed. So that's part of the reason why there's really elevated prices in New York City. But what was really important that she brought up that I had no idea is, like, you wonder, why is it that they're sanctuary cities? All right? Why is it that there was such a push for sanctuary cities? Now, one thought was, okay, bring immigrants, illegals in to a state and then kind of try to get them to vote, give them access to voting, and then you convert a red state into a blue state. But there's something even more sinister going on, and that is the education funds for New York. And it's not just New York, but the education funds are based on the number of pupils that sign up at the beginning of the year. So, independent on if they're legal or not. So, because there has been a declining population in the number of pupils going to elementary school, the funding has been declining. So by having illegal immigrants coming in and those children going into the public schools get more funding. So this is part of the reason why they want that. The public schools want the funding. In addition, New York is declining in population as a state. They are afraid of losing congressional representation at the federal level. It's based on population. If your population declines, they're going to lose representation. They need the population increased. Well, the best way to do it is get illegals in and then eventually give them amnesty. They become citizens and boom, you protect your representation in Congress. So it's about trying to stop the bleeding of people leaving the state. I thought that was pretty profound, and that came right out of a councilwoman's mouth last night. So it is about trying to it is about changing the electoral vote, but also it's about funding at these different departments, especially education department. Because it's all based on the number of pupils that sign up at the beginning of the year. All right, since we were talking about Thanksgiving, just in case you can't afford a turkey and you don't get sleepy after the meal, go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Goodnight Formula. All kidding aside, the Goodnight Formula is really important to take. Why? You need to consolidate memory by having a deep sleep and the 3 cycles of REM sleep. By being in 3 cycles of REM sleep, you're detoxifying your central nervous system, and you'll be well rested when you wake up. Chronic sleep deprivation is bad for you. It weakens the immune system because your cortisol levels are too high, and it will prevent you from detoxifying your body, and you will age faster. But if you have better sleep, deeper sleep, REM cycle sleep, you're consolidating memory, you're detoxifying the body, and you're going to be well rested. You're going to be slowing down the aging process, and you're reducing the chances of having early onset of dementia. Chronic sleep deprivation is really bad for you. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Goodnight Formula. This has tryptophan and melatonin in it, and many other different supplements. So just go to the store and read the profile. I don't have time to read the whole profile, but the whole point is this is a very high quality supplement that help aid in your sleep. Right? Go to the store, get the Goodnight Formula, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help support my channel. Now, let's say you can't afford a turkey. You're going to be stuffed, right? Because you overeat during Thanksgiving. Everybody overeats during Thanksgiving. So you're going to need the digestive enzyme complex. Why? Because the digestive enzyme complex has the enzymes that break up the carbs, the proteins, and the lipids. So, it's going to, help you to break up the bread that you eat, and the stuffing. It's going to help you break up the turkey for the protein, and it's going to help you, break up that gravy that you put on the turkey. In addition, it reduces the stress on your pancreas. As we get older, our pancreas gets worn out, too stressed, right? And it doesn't work as well. Well, a great way to boost up the health of the pancreas and reduce the stress on it while you're digesting is to take the digestive enzyme complex. So you can absorb those nutrients better and you're reducing the stress on your pancreas. If you work out, you're going to need to fuel your body. If you're an athlete or you work out regularly, a great way to improve your recovery is to take the digestive enzyme complex, because you're breaking up, you're refueling nutrients, your shakes or your protein drinks or whatever. This helps you to refuel. So it's a dual kind of product. If you work out, it'll help you. If you're a little bit older and you need to reduce the stress on your pancreas, or you have some sort of digestive problem, this will help you, okay? So please, go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the digestive enzyme complex. It's a very high quality product. And you need a good gut biome, all right? So please, go to my store, get this Veggie Cap probiotic. It also has turmeric in it, right? And with taking probiotics on a regular basis, you're going to improve your digestion, you're going to reduce inflammation in the gut, you're going to have better metabolism, you're going to have better communication between your gut and your liver. That's really important, because your liver detoxifies your body, your liver does a lot of metabolism, and your gut communicates with your brain. With a bad gut biome, you can get depression, you can be sluggish and have less mental clarity. But to improve your mental clarity, to improve your memory, to improve your mood, having a good gut biome helps. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the probiotic Veggie Caps. All right, with that said, let's go to Bragg. What's going on with Alan Bragg? I've actually seen him.
New Yorkers across the board know that if Alvin Bragg keeps this job, our city...
Something that is shocking for me as a parent: gender identity classes for kindergartners. That's what Hillside Elementary School in New York had been teaching, with lesson plans including identifying who you are, expressing identity, and determining your gender pronouns.
See, this is the crazy thing about what's going on in New York. They are trying to brainwash these kids at such a young age and confuse them, and then you add in the endocrine disruptors in the food and in the water, and all of a sudden you start having emotional problems. These kids have emotional problems, they start having endocrine problems, they're having gender dysphoria, they're having memory problems, they're not as healthy, their immune system is down. There's lots of things that are happening, and there's these two vectors. They're attacking them through the food and water, and they're attacking them through the inculcation at school. It's crazy. We need to stop this. You wonder, did you have, for the ones that are like Gen X or even baby boomers, did you have friends that fell into all these weird categories, and had all these problems? I didn't know anyone autistic in elementary school. No one. I knew no student that was autistic at any level. Thinking back on, with the knowledge that I have, none of them were even, slightly, not one. Now it's like 40% of the student body. Crazy. We're poisoning our kids mentally and physically. It's just bad.
5-year-olds are expected to understand include cisgender, transgender, and non-binary, and as of this moment, that lesson plan has been taken down. Maud Marin is a mom of 4 running against Alvin Bragg for Manhattan DA. She joins me now. We're going to get into the DA race in a second, but you have been a school board president. You are an education advocate. Is that a good idea, teaching that to 5-year-olds?
Well, let me say this. I have been elected by the parents of Manhattan again and again and again in our school district, precisely because I focus on, and the parents of our district want us to focus on, real education, on literacy, on numeracy, and not on leftist ideologies that are inappropriate for kids.
what parents want is their children to get a good, solid education, to learn how to read, particularly in kindergarten when most kids actually need to learn how to read. And that's why the parents of Manhattan have elected me again and again, because I am very clear that our schools need to be places where kids can learn the important stuff and not have that kind of leftist indoctrination.
I think you nailed it. I want my children to learn math, reading, writing, science, and I'm a pretty smart 4-year-old who's going to be 5-year-old soon, and I don't think in any world I could explain cisgender, all these different concepts to her without confusing her, and I think that's the issue. We did reach out to the district. Here's what the superintendent wrote, quote, "We will be reviewing future lesson plans over the next couple of months with updates to the Board of Education, providing ample opportunity for Hastings community feedback before any lesson plans are taught in the classroom." Reached out back to the district for further comment. We are awaiting further clarification, so we'll have to leave that one there. Meantime, Democrat New York Congressman Richie Torres is calling for stronger border security as he eyes a potential run for governor. He told the New York Post, quote, "If the federal government is looking to remove violent criminals, then the state should cooperate." But Ma, just 2 years ago, he said he backed mass amnesty for illegals. Is this a bona fide shift in his views in light of what the voters told us following Trump's big win?
I think it's really clear in New York and around the country that people in both parties want safer cities, they want better schools, as we talked about, and they want sensible policies. They don't want extreme ideologies on either side. What they want is a way to raise their kids, to have excellent schools, to have safe streets, to have thriving businesses, and Richie Torres and lots of other people have gotten that memo.
Okay, let's get to the main event now, Maude. The migrant crisis. Will it, along with disorder on the streets, cost Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg the election? It's something that you're hoping to facilitate because you want to win that seat. So has this city reached its tipping point where enough voters are saying, look, we are so fed up?
I saw an event where where Alvin Bragg was speaking and he took questions from the audience. The audience was very negative on Allen. They were worried about the crime and how he's not addressing it, and all he cared about was just giving, these criminals, one chance, 2 chances, 3 chances, 4 chances, 5 chances. He's just not paying attention to the crime. And then at that time, he was also going after Trump. It was focused more on Trump than the crime that was going on Broadway.
Alvin Bragg's soft on crimes policy that we will elect a Republican in a deep blue city like this?
Look, I think at this point it's really not about party. It's about who has the best policies and who has the best ideas and who can really say we will prioritize keeping New Yorkers safe. Since 2019, we have had a 30% increase in crime in this city. And that's notwithstanding the fact that some people are so fed up with the response that they get that they don't even call in crimes. If you see someone stealing in your local pharmacy, you're not going to call the police because you know Alvin Bragg isn't going to prosecute that case. He released a day 1 memo saying that there were certain crimes he just wasn't going to prosecute. So New Yorkers of both parties, New Yorkers across the board know that if Alvin Bragg keeps this job, our city will just get less safe. We absolutely need a change. I am a criminal defense litigator for many.
I am dead serious. New York is turning into Gotham. It's turning into Gotham City, all right? Like in Batman, all right? Where it's just like the criminals run the town, the mobsters run the town. New York has big problems, and people that have money are moving out, and this is part of the reason why they're having a problem with their tax base. And so they try to fix it a little bit by, well, they're going to have congestion pricing. So if you go into Manhattan, they're going to charge you $9 to get in and charge you $9 to get out. Depending on where you come from, at what street level. It's crazy. And then they'll just keep on inching that up and up and up, and people are going to move out of the city. We're seeing the beginnings of the end of New York. It's going back to a pre-Giuliani day. That's what's happening. And it's run by people that are incompetent.
And Manhattan needs a good defense right now. We need to be defended against the criminals who have made our city less safe.
I would ask you for a point-by-point approach to what your plan would be, but I think I can make it as simple for the audience as possible. If somebody commits a crime, you're going to prosecute them, right? Is it that simple?
It really is that simple. We need to prosecute crime. We need to support the law enforcement that we have in the city to do the job they can do. And we need to build a society where you can walk into a pharmacy and pick something off the shelf because our rules are designed to protect the law
It's
abiders.
crazy. It's crazy. You go into Macy's and everything is on a chain because Macy's is worried that these gangs are coming in and stealing everything. You go into, let's say, a Walgreens or a CVS right? Everything is behind a locked up cabinet. Everything. You want a bag of Doritos? You gotta ring a bell to get the bag of Doritos. It's just like, this is the kind of society we live in now. It's unacceptable, and then we're taxed up the yin yang for that because we have an incompetent DA.
Lawbreakers.
Maud Marin, her campaign pitch is if you elect me to be DA, I will actually do the job of being a DA as opposed to what Alvin Bragg is doing. We thank you. We're going to be monitoring this race. We've got about a year. It's going to be interesting. Maud Marin, thank you.
Thanks, Steph.
I'm Steve
what it
Bishop.
was?
I'm Brighteon.
What it was is a perfect example on how Trump is bad, Orange Man bad. Let's only focus on Trump and let's not worry about inner city crime. That's what was happening under the office of Alvin Bragg. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help support my channel. Help support this new setup that I have, for live streaming and all this, by going to the store and getting the products. And it's a dual thing. You're helping support the channel, and you're also helping to support your health. I have this great toothpaste. It's made from structural nanosilver. It helps to whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, reduce inflammation at the gum line, help with your gum line. When we get older, our gum lines recede, but this helps to heal the gum line. In addition, the structural nanosilver toothpaste neutralizes pathogens, and having good oral hygiene is going to help you with your cardiovascular health and prevent valvular disease. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get this great toothpaste. Get a couple tubes for your household. 2, 3, 4 tubes for your household. All right? It's very high quality. It's the best toothpaste that you're going to be able to get. Vitamin B complex, very important for cellular metabolism. The first few B vitamins helps with your mitochondrial health, and B vitamins are very important for your neural health. So it's important to take when you get older. Vitamin C, boost up your immune system, especially during the cold season. If you're not feeling well, take a double dose. Make sure you drink it with filtered water. And magnesium and zinc, you should be taking every day to boost up your immune system. And again, if you're not feeling well during the cold season, take a double dose. Maybe take one in the morning, take another one in the evening. But the thing is if you're not feeling well during the cold season. But, maintenance, if you're feeling fine, take just, 1 dose per day. This is the magnesium and zinc. Boost up your immune system. All right, let's go to Bloomberg here. This is about the turkey party.
This event marks the official start of the holiday season here in Washington. It's also my last time to speak here as your president during this season and give thanks and gratitude. So let me say to you, it's been the honor of my life. I'm forever grateful.
And he may be feeling grateful for something else this Thanksgiving, which is what he was able to announce from the White House yesterday, a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. It began at 4 a.m. local time. It will last for 60 days, but the president cast this as something that can be permanent, ultimately. That is the end goal here. And of course, one of his major goals of holding this office has been to achieve, if not total peace, at least more peace in the Middle East, something he's been pushing towards since October 7th of last year, and obviously coming in the final days of his presidency. So we want to reflect more now and assemble our signature political panel. Rick Davis, Stone Court Capital partner and Republican strategist, alongside Democratic analyst Jeannie Shanzano, senior democracy fellow at the Center for the Study of the Presidency and Congress. Thank you both for being here on this Thanksgiving Eve. Jeannie, I know we talked about this yesterday, but obviously this is going to be talked about well into the future. It will be written about by historians. And when they look back at the Biden presidency, what is more likely to stand out? The fact that this conflict in the Middle East began while he was in office, or that there were steps toward a ceasefire and at least part of it as he was leaving?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a mixed bag. I think it's going to be a little bit of both. And happy Thanksgiving Eve, Kaylee. I should say that first. I think it's going to be a little bit of both. This was certainly yesterday, this ceasefire with Hezbollah and Israel was certainly welcome, the result of a huge amount of work on the part of the administration and so many of our allies around the world. It does also suggest that Iran, a chief challenge for the United States, is saying it mildly, has been weakened because, of course, they had to be part of this agreement as the chief sponsor of Hezbollah. But that said, the president, of course, was unable to get, sort of the big prize, which is a peace deal between the Hamas in Gaza and Israel. And of course, most importantly, to get the American and Israeli hostages home who are there and have now been there for over a year. So, it's going to be a bit of a mixed bag on both parts, but this was certainly welcome and the result of a huge amount of work for the president and his team.
Well, and of course, the new president is going to potentially inherit not just this conflict, Rick, but the other hot conflict the U.S. has been involved in, at least from a support standpoint, the one in Ukraine. We just had a headline crossing the Bloomberg terminal that President-elect Trump has named Keith Kellogg for a special envoy for Ukraine and Russia. Kellogg, of course, a retired general, retired Army lieutenant general. He did serve in the first Trump administration, but this comes as Donald Trump has been quite clear, Rick, about the fact that he would like to see the war in Ukraine come to an end, and he thinks he could do that in a pretty expeditious manner. So what is the former national security advisor for Trump's former vice president, Mike Pence, going to play a role in here? How long will we need an envoy if there's to be a quick end to this conflict?
Well, I think that after the first conversation that Donald Trump had after his election with Putin, where Putin wouldn't even admit that he spoke to Donald Trump, I think the message was loud and clear that if you thought you were going to get a quick end to this conflict, you are kidding yourself. In fact, Donald Trump's message to Putin.
I think the issue is that the deep state is trying to create a situation in Ukraine to hamstring Trump, so it slows down trying to restructure the national security state that could potentially lead to tactical nuke usage by Russia. That's what I think is happening. And once Russia launches a tactical nuke, then the national security state is going to rush up to the Hill, talk to Congress and say, you got to give us emergency powers and, curtail freedoms because we don't know if we have a lone wolf in the United States because we have an open border. And we got 9/11 all over again.
Conditions that need to be present in order to be able to get a cessation of hostilities, which I think everybody in Europe and the United States would be supportive of under the right terms and circumstances. So kudos to Trump for getting this announcement out at a time when we need to be putting more pressure on Putin. But at the end of the day, anybody who thinks this is going to come to a quick halt, regardless of the political rhetoric of the last year, might be barking up the wrong tree.
Well, as we read the nomination statement made by Donald Trump on Truth Social,
heaven forbid Trump gets what he wants and the deep state doesn't. See, are you starting to notice a pattern here? If the deep state doesn't like something, they find a way to keep power.
Around what happens next in this conflict, Jeannie. It's also going to be a question of Congress and whether additional funding will ever materialize. And as we are are now, even with Rick saying, you know, this might not end quickly, this could drag on for some period of time until some form of agreement can be reached. Is it likely that Ukraine, with a red sweep, is going to see more money from the United States?
You know, I don't think they're going to see anything approaching what they've seen under the Biden administration. Donald Trump campaigned on an America First slogan. So did many of the members of the party who won. Many of them are now in Congress. We still have a number of Russia hawks in Congress as well, including Mitch McConnell, who has a key role on one of the appropriations subcommittees in the Senate, although he has stepped aside from the majority leader position, or minority leader as he was. But the reality is that we are seeing, even just in Trump's appointments, even before Kellogg, you have Rubio and Waltz, both of whom initially supported aid to Ukraine, but when that last $60 billion package came up in April, they both voted against it. And you have somebody like J.D. Vance who advocated for freezing the war where the troops are located. And so, you know, Rick is absolutely right. This is going to take time, but the devil here is going to be in the details. What does it mean to see a political solution? What does Ukraine get out of this? They want in NATO. They probably won't get that. Are they going to get a deal for arms, shipments, defense? You know, if J.D. Vance has his way and they freeze troops where they're located, that is the concern of many of the hawks, that is a much more favorable end for Russia and Putin than it is for Ukraine. So there is still a lot of work to be done. But I do think as it pertains to funding, Donald Trump was very clear, as were Republicans in the campaign, we are focused on America first. And that means that level of funding we've seen is not going to probably be replicated in the next few years.
Well, I'm glad you raised NATO, Jeannie. Rick, obviously there has been, on those who are proponents of Ukraine aid who want to see the additional funding, the argument is because Ukraine is acting as a barrier to the rest of NATO, where Russia could target next if it's victorious in Ukraine. And there's been much question about the future of the NATO alliance under a second Trump administration, keeping in mind this alliance is now bigger, has grown larger with new members since Joe Biden took the office. As we consider the check here provided by the other branches of government, Congress has taken steps to make it more difficult to actually leave NATO, for example. And I just wonder what the reality check is on what our relationship with that alliance could look like under Donald Trump, what really he could do to change it, considering the articles to which the U.S. is bound.
Well, I think that, first of all, you really question whether or not that's the intention of Donald Trump. He likes to rattle the sabers when it comes to our own allies, but the reality is we just went through 4 years of Donald Trump and 4 years of Joe Biden, and arguably NATO is stronger than it has ever been since the Cold War ended.
The deep state does a lot of saber rattling too. You kidding me?
And look, we have the power of the purse. NATO is very much reliant on our financial support and our military support. We have bases in virtually every NATO country, troops permanently stationed there, enormous amount of equipment and stockpiles. And I think that all of that is leverage for Donald Trump to do his own bidding when it comes to dealing with people like Putin and others. So he's a negotiator if he's anything, Donald Trump, and I can't imagine him wanting to undermine his negotiating capability with Putin, you know, by somehow undermining NATO at this point. Doesn't mean it doesn't, you know, happen at some point in time in the future of his presidency, but there's no indication right now that we're anything other than a committed ally to NATO. I would say European allies of ours have stepped up, not only making increased budget additions to their military, their domestic military, but they're making more commitments to supporting Ukraine than they did a year ago. So they're not hesitating the buildup of NATO support to Ukraine, even when the U.S. may be facing a lull. I think the biggest issue with the United States is our own stockpiles. Some of the money that has been suggested by the Biden administration, if not 2/3 of it, would actually go to the rebuilding of U.S. stockpiles, which are dangerously low, and if they get low, you can't do anything to help Ukraine when it comes to armament. So the reality is it's in everybody's interest to resupply the U.S. and giving ourselves options in the future. And I would think Congress would be okay with looking at something like that. Maybe not direct support to Ukraine, but certainly to be able to rebuild our own stockpiles.
All right, Rick Davis and Jeannie Shanzano, our signature political panel, with me as we digest this breaking news.
We definitely need to prepare for a potential Pacific conflict with China. We're underprepared, and our Navy keeps on screaming about this for several years. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the multivitamin. This multivitamin is easy to digest, and you need multivitamins as cofactors for your enzymatic activity. You have enzymes in your cells, and they need the proper multivitamins to attach to that enzyme to get the right conformation for proper processing. All right, so take this very high quality multivitamin, go to the store, take a look at the multivitamin profile. Don't have time to go over it, but it's very high quality. You should add this to your stack. In addition, I have Myotrol. Myotrol helps to build muscle, maintain muscle. That's really important when you get older. And if you work out, this is a great way to increase performance and build muscle if you're an athlete or you're just recreationally active. In addition, this helps to boost up your mitochondria. So you need that for energy. You need lots of energy for your muscles, right? So if you're older or if you work out regularly and you want to build muscle, it's a great way to do it. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Myotrol. And lignans, very important to help to boost up your immune system. This is a powder. You mix it with your food, or you can mix it with filtered water. All right, or make a smoothie. What I do is I mix it with hummus, but it's a powder. It has a little scooper. Take a scooper a day. All right, this helps to boost up your immune system. In addition, it also helps with your endocrine system. This is an antioxidant, and it helps to bring down inflammation. Go to my store, get the lignans. This is very, very high quality to improve your immune system. All right, I want to, probably people have seen parts of the video from Harris going off on a tangent. I want to take a look at it from the lens of the Hill. All right, so the title of it is Kamala Harris called out for weird rambling video to supporters. I saw it and she looked strange. All right. So let's see what they have to say about Harris's strange video that was released, I think it was yesterday.
Vice President Kamala Harris spoke out for the first time since conceding the presidential race to Donald Trump. Here's a clip of Harris talking to some of her supporters.
And it means so much to me and to Governor Walz that you knocked on doors, you called friends, you called in favors. You said, hey, I showed up at your softball game, now I need you to show up at the campaign office. You put in the time, it was personal for you. And you gave all that you could to support our campaign. Because of your efforts, get this, we raised and...
Why did she lie to her supporters that she was doing better in the polls? Why did she run a campaign where she collected $1 billion in 107 days and was still $20 million in the hole? Do you really want someone like her running the economy? Really?
short $1.4 billion, almost $1.5 billion. Again, I'll say, you know, the election didn't turn out like we wanted it to. Certainly not as we planned for it to. But understand that the work we put into it was about empowering people. That's the spirit with the work we did. I just have to remind you, don't you ever let anybody take your power from you. You have the same power that you did before November 5th. And you have the same purpose.
How do they have the same power when they lost the House, they lost the Senate, they lost the executive branch, and there's a more conservative court? How does the Democratic Party have power?
That you did. And you have the same ability to engage and inspire. So don't ever let anybody or any circumstance take your power from you.
Social media users skewered Harris's 3-week post-law speech. Frequent critic of the Biden administration, Benny Johnson, posted on X, quote, Kamala Harris addresses supporters 3 weeks after a humiliating loss to Trump in painfully cringe 10-minute rant where she brags about wasting over $1.4 billion in donor money. And conservative pundit Gunther Eagleman wrote, who in their right mind let Kamala Harris post this? Lol. Charlie Kirk, host of The Charlie Kirk Show, chimed in as well, as Kamala delivers a message to her dejected supporters bragging about how they raised nearly $1.5 billion for her failed campaign. David Plouffe has finally admitted the campaign's internal polling never had Harris ahead of Trump. It was all a giant scam. Niall,
yes.
What are your thoughts of that video? She's I don't know. Can I say it? Can I express my
here?
It's, you know, and it's fine. And she lost, and she should be taking some time off and relaxing with a bottle of Chardonnay or whatever puts her in a calming place. I wonder if she had cracked into that bottle before posting that message.
I know there was some comment to that effect online. I think she has a rather idiosyncratic way of speaking at the best of times. It seemed, I wasn't clear whether her remark...
She looked like she had substance abuse.
were scripted or not, because they seemed at times quite casual, but it would be odd if you gave a fairly lengthy address for the first time since you considered the election.
I agree.
Without any notes
It seemed unscripted, but I can't imagine that it was.
Whether it may have been or not. I do first have to defend her to some extent with, like, well, I mean, we read out tweets by, like, Benny Johnson and Charlie Kirk and that other guy.
Yeah.
Like,
your best friends.
All my besties. I mean, these, you know, they would criticize Kamala Harris for breathing, so I don't know really what is particularly gained other than
woke breathing.
Well, maybe it is. Look, you know, on what I don't really think. I don't want to kick her when she's done it, so to speak. You know, she ran, as is often the case with Kamala Harris. Wasn't the best, wasn't the worst. It was okay. It wasn't enough to overcome all the difficulties that she faced. That speech was not her most effective. I will certainly acknowledge that. I think it was sort of very vague. One of the things I notice about Kamala Harris' speeches generally is she doesn't really tend to tell a story in the speeches. There isn't a narrative. Maybe she just got a new speechwriter. There isn't a narrative really in her remarks. There's sort of a bit of this and a bit of that, and throw it all into a grab bag together. Having said that, look, you know, losing a presidential election, we've spoken about this before, very searing experience, very exhausting experience. I think it's ludicrous to say it was a scam because everyone needs vast amounts of money to contest a presidential election.
I mean,
anyway.
Losing like the student council treasury election in middle school is traumatizing enough.
Yeah, well, exactly.
It's coming this close.
Are we going back to your youthful traumas here?
I mean, it's even worse. I thought it was just $1 billion. It's $1 billion. It's $1.4 billion. 1.4, almost $1.5 billion. That is insane amount of money for a campaign in such a short amount of time that she spent it. I mean, there must be some serious corruption.
Well, I mean, it all comes down. I often think back when the whole Biden crisis was ongoing, there was some otherwise anonymous ex-user who went very viral for a tweet that, if I remember it correctly, was simply, "They're going to have to roll the dice on Kamala, bro." And that was basically the situation. Like, Biden was definitely going to lose.
Yeah.
Jumping past Harris to...
One ticker, one trade, every week. My name is Nate Baer, and I just sat down with Peabody Award-winning journalist Bill Tucker and revealed the number...
Jumping past Harris to someone else wasn't really viable because she's the incumbent black female vice president. She has political flaws, as we all saw in 2020. Some of the things she did this campaign were okay, some of them weren't much of it.
Well, and they're still talking about her. She wants to keep herself in a conversation for now, as we alluded to yesterday and the day before.
She's never
in
coming back.
contention for either California governor or running
No
for president again. I can't imagine her actually doing either of those things. Look, I think if she ran for governor of California, she would very well win. She would have a good, strong chance of winning. She has name ID specifically in California, and is her kind of, as you say, idiosyncratic, not just deliberately, but mix of policies or what she stands for, is clearly a fit for California. I have no doubt she could win that race. I have serious doubts about her necessarily winning the nomination or the presidency if she pursued it for national politics. She could become governor. Does she really want to do that? Does she want to do any of these things that take work? And look, she did her best. I don't want to kick her when she's down either. I think she should, you know, semi-retire from well, certainly from running campaigns. She can.
She doesn't want to put the effort in to be good. She's just mediocre, and she's been mediocre her whole life. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the zeolite. This is a way to detoxify your body from heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals, including forever chemicals. A great way to start is filter your water, eat better foods, stop eating processed foods, and then the detox. All right? So please go to my store, get the zeolite, and detox. This is a zeolite that you can take every day throughout the year, or you can, do it once or twice a year. It's up to you. I have a very strong antioxidant. It's called C60. You can get it in extra virgin olive oil, MCT coconut oil, or avocado oil. C60 soaks up free radicals, helps to boost up the health of the mitochondria, boosts up your ATP. You'll have more energy, and with more energy, you'll have a better endocrine system, a better immune system. Your cells will perform better, and soaking up those free radicals, you'll slow down the aging process. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the C60 and the zeolite.
Be a speaker or do whatever, book tours, that kind of thing. Yeah. That's really the role for her. That's got to be what she wants more, is less taxing, and to be.
Yeah, and as we said whenever we previously discussed this, it's traditionally difficult in American politics to come back from defeats. Now, obviously, Trump is a rebuttal to that argument, but you go past that and you have to struggle to find people. Nixon did it, admittedly, in the 60s.
Nixon was the biggest political comeback until Donald Trump.
Right. But, that is generally rare, and if you lose a presidential election, there is not generally an easy route back from there. And it's not like Kamala Harris has a really, it's not like an AOC type figure or a Bernie Sanders type figure where there is a ideological movement that is filled with fervent believers in that person. She's a sort of technocrat, really, and whenever it comes down to it, and those people do not tend to inspire massive loyalty.
Right, and she's someone who I think wanted to be in the mold of like a Barack Obama, as such a charismatic someone whose personality and personal charisma holds your attention.
There was no way that she would have been a Barack Obama. No way. There was just too many people that just did not like her. Plus, you gotta also remember Barack Obama. You gotta also remember Barack Obama came onto the scene during that whole Lehman crisis, and people were very upset with the economy and with the Bushes, and it was a kind of a unique situation.
of the things he would say mattered less, or what the policies were mattered less, and progressives and liberals, you know, have been debating since the inception of Obama whether he's a person of the left, or whether he's really a centrist, or what his views actually are, how they've changed, because he certainly was a very, very stridently progressive person earlier on, but none of that really mattered, because it was the vibe, it was the feel of him, before we use the word vibe so frequently to describe everything going on. That's what she wanted to be, but she just doesn't have that raw.
She doesn't,
which is not an uncommon thing. Barack Obama was unique in that category for being such an effective deliverer of rhetoric and speech.
That's what I was actually going to say, a version of that. I think that Democrats have become spoiled to a degree in saying that various candidates are no Obama, and I think that underestimates what an exceptional political figure Barack Obama was. I know, you know, conservative members of our audience will be fuming about such a remark. But separating him out from whatever you think of his ideological positions, he's an extraordinarily talented man.
Yeah, well, and I would say Reagan was as well, in terms of the communications and the delivery of speeches, and of course, but both of their political careers now look far less impressive next to Donald Trump. Return from the dead. We're in the presidency. I'm not even saying it in a it's a good thing sort of way. You just have to observe the phenomenon. It is remarkable. I am Niall grunting and
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nano silver products that I have. I have it in gel form, in a tube form, and an easy dispenser and easy to carry in your bag. It's a dual purpose product. It will help to improve your skin. It will neutralize pathogens. It's a great way to use as a skincare. You can put it on your skin. A great way to do it is to put it on your skin before you go to bed, exfoliate in the morning, do that, and what will happen is your skin's clearer and tighter, especially around your face. Also, you can, you know, during the cold season, put this on your hands, around your mouth, around your nose, around your ears, lightly coat your nostrils, and this will neutralize pathogens. So please go to my store, get the structural nano silver dispenser, put it in your bag. It's easy to carry around. This is important to have in your house. Why? Because we're in the cold season in the United States, and you're going to have coworkers sick, and you're going to have people in your household sick, and people that you know sick, so it's really important to be prepared, right? Plus, it's a dual-purpose product, so please go to my store, get the structural nano silver gels. They're very high quality. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com. This is going to be the end of the transmission today. I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving for the ones that do celebrate Thanksgiving. You know, and just be thankful that that you're alive, and that we're moving hopefully in a more positive direction in the country. And you know, everyone needs to just sit back and kind of take stock in what to be thankful for. So thank you for listening. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help support my work by purchasing the products, donating on the store. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or Buy Me a Coffee. And you know, share the links and ask your social media to follow me. I have a lot of censorship that's going on with YouTube. They bleed my subscribers, and I want to help people. You know, improve their health, right? And understand what's going on. And also, you know, we're going to add, the markets don't only go upward, markets also go down too. And I want to give you my perspective when those things happen. So please, go to my store, help support my work, ask your social media to follow me, and so we can move forward with this kind of more interactive setup. Thank you for listening, and have a nice day.